Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Do, do, do. Do, 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 do. Do, do, do. Do, do, do. Do, 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 do.
I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati.
All right, all right. Happy Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sab's podcast. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. If you're new, I do want to let you know that Sab's podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there for our monthly roundtable, and you can catch me here on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sundays. I want to give a shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Twitter, and Rumble. And welcome back, guys. We have big news tonight. We have 6 stories that we're going to get into tonight, and we will do call in after the show. I figured people definitely probably want to chat after tonight's stories. So many things to get into, ladies and gents. Let me start out by giving shout outs to some of the comrades here in the chat. What is going on, fam? Shout out to Samayo. Says Sabby, take on Pacman. He is set to lose a large segment of Democrats to you. I assume you mean David Pacman. Yeah, he would never come on here. He would never come on here. He would never bring me on his show because of the things that I say. So I hear you, but he would never. No, that would never happen. Shout out to Naji says, love France. Welcome, France. Greetings, Frank says, disgusting racial slur by TPUSA against Candace. They are desperate. But you know, we're going to get into it tonight. We're going to get into it tonight because tonight's theme is my own worst enemy. And sometimes, like, you don't really have to do much for people to show you who they are. So we're going to get into all of that. Greetings, Blockbuster says hi. Shout out to Jason says AI will destroy Hollywood. I could see that happening. Greetings, Joanne says, hey, Sabby, looking forward to catching you live. What's up? Greetings, CBC Voter says, happy Tuesday, Sabby and Eric. Shout out to one pissed off citizen at Sabby and Eric. Sound like a good lineup. See you then. What's up, Cloudness says, and another bites the dust. Rest in piss, messy Jesse. Oh, Lord, you betrayed us and you have to answer to the ancestors for your transgressions, but good riddance. These sellouts are falling by the wayside. Yeah, we do have that's the bonus story tonight. For those who are not aware, Jesse Jackson has died. So we're going to get into all of that. Greetings, Mart Selena says, I don't know if it's old news, but I just confirmed this. If you go to Epstein Library and search no images produced, click on any links, change the ending of the URL from PDF to MP4, videos will show. Yeah, I saw that on X. I tried to do it. It didn't work for me, but I think maybe I just did something wrong, and that's very much possibly the case. Greetings, Mr. Moto says 11 demands. Well, I just don't know. Maybe we'll start with one. Don't punish me with brutality. Talk to me so you can see what's going on. Greetings, New York Varsity said Randy Fine is a disgusting human being and they let him tweet whatever he wants. Yeah, he said something really nasty again. I got to tell you, I sincerely hope they get that guy out of Congress. Like, there's no one more blatantly nasty and disgusting and says more vile things than Randy Fine. He is just, I don't understand how he got in the first place. Greetings, good food only. I had a feeling Lebron would be on the next thumbnail. You know me so well. You know me so well. Greetings, Hannah said LeBron stepped in it. Shout out to Lawrence, says Cataboo for Congress in Illinois, 09. And greetings, B-Snap said, this is really good info. Don't go to Harvard. And welcome to the rest of you as well. As I said, we have quite a bit to get into. Let's go ahead and give a shout out to our patrons. Thank you guys so much for being a patron. Really do appreciate you, fam. If you're interested in being a patron, we have 5 categories. We have the ultimate. Don't forget about the Sabinators. They're no later gators. We have the Sabsters doing their thing there. We also have Sabbies, which is still the most popular group of patrons, is the Sabbies. That's the most people there. And last but not least, we want to give a big shout out, of course, to the members. All of their names are listed here, ladies and gents, and you can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen on the ticker throughout the show. I want to give a shout out to new Sabby patrons. We call them newbies. Let's give it up for Coffee Shufford and La Cherish. La Cherish. Maybe it's La Cherish? La Cherish? That sounds like the name of a band. La Cherish. Like maybe a band from like 1989. La Cherish. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you. And welcome to the show, ladies and gents. Let's go ahead and show you that thumbnail so you can see what we are discussing tonight. Again, we have 6 news stories for you because we have that breaking news story about Jesse Jackson passing away as well. Tonight, ladies and gents, we are discussing, oh boy, this is a big one. I knew it was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen. I told you, if you've been watching me for a couple of years, I told you this was coming. Oh, the tables have turned. The gentleman there next to Candace Owens is the producer for the Charlie Kirk show, and he definitely showed his whole ass on Twitter. He is calling Candace Owens a DEI hire. I told you this was going to happen. So we're going to get into that, ladies and gents. Like I said, sometimes you don't have to do too much for people to show you who they really are. So we'll get into that. We're also going to discuss Iran is running drills. Yes, running drills, ladies and gents. This is also around the time that the U.S. is sending more Navy ships to Iran. They were supposed to be in talks for some type of negotiation. It doesn't look like that's going that direction. So we got to make sure we keep up with that as well. We're also going to discuss, I'm finally getting into this story after I gathered enough information. The Epstein Zorro Ranch is in the news right now because it appears that New Mexico legislators have been able to get something going to get permission to search that property. I'm going to tell you how this also ties in with Turning Point USA. We're also going to discuss Lebron. Oh, LeBron is pissing a lot of people off after recent comments that he made in regards to Israel. I'm going to show you why LeBron is wrong and who you should actually listen to instead that is also on that court. So I'm going to show you some comparisons. There are some better people out there on the basketball court on this issue. We're also going to discuss, you see the picture of Donald Trump right there. The Trump administration is now announcing that they have targeted social media companies to go after people who are criticizing ICE, asking for their name, their address, etc. This is exactly what I was warning people about. And of course, this is happening right after Discord announced this age verification for their platform. And last but not least, the breaking news story, ladies and gents, if you have not heard, which is that Jesse Jackson has died. So we're going to get into that as well. The theme tonight is my own worst enemy. Many of you may have heard of it if you liked rock music. I don't know what happened to rock music. Like rock music used to be a thing. And there were all these different rock bands. Like that song is from a band called Lit. But there was like Red Hot Chili Peppers. We used to have Papa Roach. We used to have like all these different rock bands like in the mainstream. So I know there's still like underground rock bands, but nowadays, when I turn on the radio, and sometimes I do when I'm driving my car, I do not hear rock music, like new rock music. I find myself listening to old rock music because I'm like, where are the new rock bands? And it was brought to my attention. And again, shout out to Nico House and some other ones for this one. There is a band that just reached #1 on the Billboard rock charts, alternative music chart. And that is this band called Paradox, which I had never heard of before until recently. And I wish I could play it on here, but I can't. Look them up for yourselves. I love it because it brings back that Blink 182 sound, which we used to call like happy punk rock or something like that. You guys know Blink 182. It's that type of sound. And it really takes you back to that moment. So those guys are good. They're really young, but amazing. Look them up, Paradox. Until then, I guess I'll be on my journey. Like, where are the new rock bands? Where are they? But the theme again tonight is my own worst enemy, because, you know, in that song, the band Lit, they talk about how a lot of the problems that they run into are things that they created on their own, not that other people created. I think he says in the song, the smoke alarm is going off and there's a cigarette still burning. He says, you know, he's sleeping in his car with his clothes on, but it's the things that he has done that has led to this. So we're going to use that for tonight's theme for the stories. And I think you'll understand why, ladies and gents. Okay, if you haven't had a chance to do so, do me a solid and smash that like button. Thank you. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. Let's keep it rocking and rolling. Speaking of rock, let's get into the breaking news story, ladies and gents. So this one was the first thing that I saw earlier today, and that is that Jesse Jackson has died. And, you know, people have mixed feelings about Jesse Jackson. I'll be very clear about that. You know, some people are very happy with the work that he did for like civil rights. Even some of his, you know, presidential campaigns, I think he ran twice. Some people are happy about that. And then some people have said that they believe that Jesse Jackson is a Fed, that he was an informant. You know, he was one of the people that were standing there at that motel with MLK when, you know, MLK was assassinated. And there have been people that have said that they felt he played a role in that. I don't have evidence to prove that. But there's some things that I do want to show you about him that you may not be aware of. So let's get into the first clip here, ladies and gents. Again, it was announced earlier today. Jesse Jackson, 84 years old, has died.
As ABC News has confirmed, Reverend Jesse Jackson has died. For more than 5 decades, he stood as a towering figure of the civil rights movement, rising to prominence in the 1960s alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. a vocal champion fighting for desegregation and equality for Black Americans and marginalized communities, a fierce advocate for voting rights. Reverend Jackson was at the Lorraine Motel in Memphis the night Dr. King was assassinated. He was standing in the courtyard and was among the first to reach him after that fatal shot was fired. He founded Operation Push, dedicated to improving the economic status of African Americans and disadvantaged groups. A trailblazer and two-time presidential candidate, he ran for the Democratic nomination in 1984 and 1988. His Rainbow Coalition was designed to form a diverse alliance of African Americans, Latinos, Asian Americans, Native Americans, women, and the LGBTQ community.
And I want to add something here, right? Because a lot of times, there's a lot of credit, and I'll show you this later, that goes to Bernie Sanders for building like this class movement. But I think people do need to realize where Bernie Sanders got that from. That came from Jesse Jackson. When Jesse Jackson was running for president, he had that populist campaign platform. And so you'll see a little bit later where I'll show you where Jesse Jackson actually met with Bernie Sanders before Bernie, even ran for president, et cetera. So a lot of times it's good to look back and see where these things came from. Now, I say that to bring this up as well, because what I did also research is that Jesse Jackson was also trying to push the Democratic Party in a more progressive direction, and that did not pan out. So this whole idea of pushing the Democratic Party, that's not new. People were trying this quite some time ago. Let's continue on.
Reverend Jackson was visibly moved to tears when President Obama was first elected in 2008. The realization of his lifelong work and unparalleled victory of the civil rights movement. His life was dedicated to civil rights during some of America's most turbulent times, a legacy of steadfast activism, giving a voice to millions and helping reshape the American landscape. Here's ABC's Pierre Thomas with a look back at Jackson's life.
All of his life, the Reverend Jesse Jackson preaching, exhorting, demanding justice, a quest to help his people and nation overcome.
We ain't the bottom, we the foundation.
Always marching, civil rights nonviolent soldier. There he was, shoulder to shoulder with Martin Luther King Jr. after witnessing the beatings of Bloody Sunday on television. Jackson eventually became one of the top lieutenants in the critical Southern Christian Leadership Conference, which challenged the Jim Crow South's withering oppression. A witness to history, he was there on that fateful April evening when King was struck down by an assassin's bullet.
This is what some people point to, right? When I told you some people felt as though Jesse Jackson was an informant, they point to this moment. They said that Jesse Jackson was the one that told him to move up to the second floor. And again, I don't have evidence to prove that, so I'm not going to say that I know for sure. I don't know that for sure. But this is one of the things that people had pointed towards.
I tried to feel his head, and I asked him, I said, Dr. King, do you hear me? Dr. King, do you hear me? And he didn't say anything.
After a leadership struggle with King's successor, Reverend Ralph Abernathy, Jackson split from the SCLC and formed a new organization, People United to Save Humanity. Push.
Black, beautiful.
After Dr. King, I don't think anyone captured the spirit of America like Reverend Jackson, and he took the movement north. I think Jesse Jackson was the link from that generation of King and them all the way to my generation, and then the generation behind me.
Now, we do know, I do know, and I covered this before, that Al Sharpton definitely was an informant, right? So I do know about that. I do have evidence of that.
The first wave of the civil rights movement had succeeded in breaking down significant barriers, but Jackson's primary focus was on economic empowerment.
We know that we are worthy of respect and protection, but nobody really knows our name, and so we're really still struggling.
He broke boundaries in politics, twice running for president, first in 1984 under the banner of a rainbow coalition.
Our flag is red, white, and blue, but our nation is rainbow. Red, yellow, brown, black, and white, we're all precious in God's sight.
Now, where did he get the Rainbow Coalition from, right? I'm pretty sure he got that idea from the Black Panthers. So you see that nothing is new, right? You see that people usually take things that have already happened and try to recycle it and add something a little bit new towards it. So it just goes to show you how far back this goes.
In 1988, he was for a time the Democratic Party's frontrunner for the presidential nomination, winning 11 primaries and caucuses before eventually losing the nomination to Massachusetts Governor Michael Dukakis.
I'd rather go down in the stirring fight than drowse to death at the sheltered shore.
Jackson also took on the role of freelance international negotiator, meeting with some of the world's most brutal tyrants.
That's something I wanted people to see. That one thing I will say is Jesse Jackson was willing to meet with people, especially in regards to foreign policy, that other people were not willing to meet with. So yeah, he did meet with Fidel Castro right here.
Tyrants.
Overseas, the American black activist Jesse Jackson has become an intermediary in the Middle East.
In 1984, he met with Syria's Hafez al-Assad,
Goodman and the Reverend Jackson arrived at Andrews Air Force Base,
securing the release of downed American naval officer Lieutenant Robert Goodman. In 1990, he held talks with Saddam Hussein to free foreign nationals being held in Iraq as human shields. And in 1999, he went behind enemy lines again to meet with Slobodan Milosevic to negotiate the return of 3 American prisoners of war. At times, he was a spiritual advisor, counseling President Clinton in his darkest hour, facing impeachment over a sex scandal. But Jackson had his own moments where he fell far short of what he had championed. In the mid-1980s, facing controversy for allegedly making a highly offensive remark about the Jewish community.
We're going to get to something else here in just a second, because I wanted you to see this as well, even going back then, right? So the comment that he made wasn't anti-Semitic, but I'm going to show you what he said in the interview. But look at how even back then, see how they came after him. And I really do believe that's part of the reason why he did not get the Democratic Party nomination. They have done this to other people. I told you they did it to Charles Barron, who was running against Hakeem Jeffries. They came after him with the anti-Semitic smears. And so that's how Hakeem Jeffries moved up in the polls, and he ended up in that seat in Congress. A lot of people don't know about this. So had it not been for that, Charles Barron, who's a former Black Panther, he would have been sitting in Congress instead of Hakeem Jeffries. And then you got people out here today telling you, don't challenge Hakeem Jeffries. So you see, he ended up being just a corporate shill. Something else I want to show you here about Jesse Jackson. Again, when I talk about how he passed this message on to Bernie Sanders, learn about the civil rights leader influence in Vermont. Bernie Sanders endorsed Jackson's 1988 presidential campaign, creating a kinship that would influence his own politics in 2016. Yeah, this is so important for people to see and to understand. In 1988, Jesse Jackson came to Vermont during his presidential campaign. That's Bernie Sanders there back in the day. Sanders, who was mayor of Burlington at the time, told a crowd of 1,000 people that he was endorsing Jackson's campaign. So people got to realize, like, this is really where Bernie got that from. This idea, this inspiration for Sanders. The pair shared similar ideologies, challenging corporate power and championing issues like universal health care decades before they became mainstream in the Democratic Party. So see, this all goes back. Now, fast forward to 2016, Jesse Jackson ended up endorsing Hillary Clinton, and then he later endorsed Bernie in 2020. Now, this is one of the things that people criticize Jesse Jackson about. You know, I often wonder, like, if he would have endorsed Bernie in 2016, you know, would things have been different? I mean, the DNC cheated anyway at the convention, but I wonder if things would have been a little bit different, you know? But there was just this idea that after Obama, it was supposed to be Hillary Clinton. And I think you guys know how I feel about that. But one thing that Jesse Jackson was right on when it was, I would say, more so controversial to say at that time, was the issue of Palestine. While more people feel more empowered to say free Palestine today, during that time, when Jesse Jackson said it, he received a lot of ridicule. And this is where some of those comments, they were like, oh, he said this about the Jewish community. Listen to what Jesse Jackson actually said.
You offended the Jews, and about you were sick and tired of hearing about the Holocaust. To say that when we're not sick and tired of hearing about black lynchings in the South and so on, I mean, we're still sympathetic. And what incredibly bad timing.
After visiting the Holocaust site, the tour guide asked me, how did I feel about it? I said, one has to have a sense of tragedy. And I think it's real tragic. I said, and the phrase that many Jewish people use, never again, really should apply to everybody, because all of us should say never again to fascism, because this is the logical conclusion of fascism. So you say, well, you make it sound as if it's just a humanitarian crisis when it's in fact unique. I said, well, as a social scientist, I choose to use the word tragic. He said, but unique. I said tragic. I said, I read Trail of Tears. I know how the Indians were exterminated. 60 million blacks were lost between Africa and America. Other similar situations. And so he became offended because I chose to use the word tragic rather than unique, which reflects a certain hypersensitivity that we must have a new formula in the Middle East that represents more balance in our policy. We must be concerned about Palestinian justice, Lebanon's territorial integrity protected, and normalized ties with the Arab world. That must not be considered offensive.
When quotes like...
So do you see what I'm saying? Back then, they came after him because he was basically saying, like, the Palestinian people deserve a right to self-determination. He also went on to fight for what would become the Jackson plank, which was a push for the Democratic Party to establish that Palestinians needed an independent state. I'll show you who blocked that from coming to the floor in just a second. Because, see, history has a way of repeating itself.
That come out about the Holocaust and so on. Who would be out to discredit you so by getting that kind of misquote?
Well,
if it is, as you say, a misquote.
Many Jewish people were insulted and outraged by virtue of the fact that we accepted Arafat's invitation to go to Lebanon. And therefore, and there were many who simply attempted to sabotage the trip by trying to discredit us and therefore make our meeting with him an irrelevant trip as opposed to a relevant trip. One of the guys who helped to deal with our ticket arrangements, getting a travel agent, he became so irate over the fact that we were going to meet this anathema, this guy called Arafat, until he just simply went in rage and lost all sense of emotional balance. He did a press conference.
I mean, this is the man who worked for you?
No, he did not work for us. See, that was a lie he told. He did not work for us.
When you had your picture taken hugging Arafat, that, of course, offended a lot of people. Strange bedfellows to be hugging a member of the PLO, an organization not unassociated with terrorism.
It's a matter of respect. In that part of the world, one of the common cultural ways of greeting people is with an embrace and a hug on both sides.
You offended.
So see how back then he was getting heat because he went to speak to Arafat, and notice that the host there said, well, you're sitting down with terrorists. So you see, guys, things that are happening today, these things are not new, right? And so obviously, of course, because he said that the Palestinians should have their own state, etc., of course, the Democratic Party was not going to give him the nomination. Now, I mentioned that he pushed something called the Jackson plank. That's interesting because it was Chuck Schumer who blocked that from coming to the floor. Sound familiar? He's been doing these things as of late as well. Chuck Schumer, this goes way back. He goes way back. And of all the people that decided to issue their remorse for Jesse Jackson dying, it was Chuck Schumer. So a lot of people are ratioing Chuck Schumer right now. He said Jesse Jackson was an icon of the civil rights movement and a fearless warrior for justice for all people. He was one of the most powerful forces for positive change in our country and our world. America is more equal and a just place thanks to his work. My prayers are with his family and all of those who were inspired by him. As we honor Reverend Jackson in the coming days, I will be thinking of the many lessons he taught us. Never look down on anybody unless you're helping them up. We should all seek to embody that spirit and serve others the way Rev Jackson did. Keep hope alive. Well, you know, I'm sure Chuck Schumer, if you are doing some type of event or something for this, he's probably going to put on some kente cloth and maybe even kneel to virtue signal to the Black community. Because here's the thing. Chuck needs to speak to himself. This idea about not looking down on people, not talking down on people, Chuck Schumer does that with the Palestinian community. So you can't sit up here and say what Jesse said and what everybody else should do when you're not doing what Jesse said to do, right? And we go back to this time here just to show you, again, and shout out to 50 Shades Away because they were on it. Here is a clip of Chuck Schumer bragging about blocking the Jackson plank, which was proposed in 1988 on the DNC platform by Jesse Jackson's presidential campaign supporting Palestinian self-determination. So I'm just going to show you how far back Chuck Schumer has been virtue signaling to the community. Watch this.
I usually begin my speeches by saying I'm glad to be here. I'm not quite sure that's appropriate tonight. That when I walked up the stairs, I was pushed. That when I came here. Now, if you don't want to hear the other side, then don't stay in this room.
At this point in time, he's speaking to a room of Zionists. So you got to remember things were a little bit different back then. So he's been doing this.
Go wait for your candidate and listen to him and make yourself feel good. Okay? If you don't want to listen to the other side, please leave. I may not convert you to my point of view, but I will tell you something. If you believe in your argument, you can withstand very easily the argument from the other side. And so if you can't, then I ask you to leave. Let me remind you the last time I was booed publicly, and this was the last time, was something you all abhorred, because I was the leader in the fight against the pro-Palestinian Jackson plank at the Democratic Convention. And I got up on that platform and I said just what I thought. And certain other states got up and booed my speech. So that just as tonight, the MC had to get up and say, give the man a chance to be heard.
Let's always remember what Chuck Schumer said in that New Yorker interview, which is that he is there in Congress to make sure that the left remains pro-Israel. So Chuck Schumer is out there saying all these great things about Jesse Jackson, but notice in that blurb that he put out on Twitter, he didn't tell you that he was the one who actively blocked the Jackson plank, which again was a push for the Democratic Party to acknowledge that the Palestinian people need an independent state. One of the things I can say about Jesse Jackson, again, when you look at the fight inside the Democratic Party, this whole idea of reforming the Democratic Party, that's not new. It didn't start with Justice Democrats. It didn't start with Bernie Sanders. It goes all the way back to Jesse Jackson, who was trying to do the same damn thing. And I think their frustration that they had with Jesse Jackson during that time is that, yeah, he was running for president. So he was, I'm going to pursue the White House. But at the same time, Jesse Jackson was still out there marching with people. I think Jesse Jackson kind of saw change as, this two-way street where it's like you had to have the movement on the outside, but you also had to have people in politics that were going to pass the legislation. And he was doing both. Like I said, people have their issues with Jesse Jackson. Some people don't agree with some of the things that Jesse Jackson did. Some people, like I said, still feel as though he was a Fed informant. I don't have evidence that he was an informant. But the thing is that had it not been for Jesse Jackson pushing for the things that were needed on the outside, say he didn't participate in any more marches and he just hung that up, he could have easily been the Obama, but he wasn't willing to do that. And he wasn't willing to take money from the Israel lobby. He wasn't willing to bend the knee to Israel. So the Democratic Party found another puppet to do that. And that's where Obama comes in. So I think that these are things that are important for people to know. And like I said before, I think a lot of times people just don't know all of the history. So when you look at that platform that he was running on, that populist platform, again, that wasn't new when Bernie Sanders did it. But the Democratic Party, which is supposed to be an opposition party to the Republican Party, when you bring up the worker issue, the working class issue, and all that stuff, you realize that they're not an opposition party. At the end of the day, the Democratic Party is its own worst enemy. And that's how you end up with a Trump. So rest in peace to Jesse Jackson. And yeah, interesting times, folks. Interesting times. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. Yeah, Eric said all this is why we need to focus on clear demands. Yeah, but people can be corrupted. Like, that's the thing. Thank you, Roger. Sab, I am at a Reparations for Freedmen for New York event conference with Divine Prince. I handed him my phone to email you. He's emailing you now. Check later. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Anthony. Yo, Queen, have you heard about 27 schools being closed in Atlanta because of declining population? I have not heard about that. I will look into it. But honestly, it doesn't surprise me. People are trying to move out the cities. People are trying to move to more areas that are more affordable, basically. So I'm not surprised by that. There's a lot of gentrification that's happening in Atlanta, too. Jojo said he cheated on his wife, didn't he? I don't know, Jojo. Jen said Jesse Jackson wasn't no damn informant. It's white America that makes up lies. Actually, the first person I heard that from was Cynthia McKinney. Thank you for the super chat, Bryce Blackwell. Steve Coakley exposed Jesse Jackson over MLK's death. I'll have to look into that. Interesting. Thank you, Dust and Dissent. The game doesn't change, the players do. Yeah, if they can't get you to do it, they'll find someone else that's willing to play that game. That's how that works. All right, ladies and gentlemen, again, the theme is my own worst enemy. And we're moving on to the next story here, which is about Iran. You guys, we got to pay attention to what's happening right now with Iran. It was just reported that Iran has been practicing drills. Now, Donald Trump has announced that he is going to be speaking with Iran per negotiations indirectly, which means he's not going to speak to them directly. He'll be speaking through someone else to them. I don't know what that's all about. But it doesn't help when you have people also like Lindsey Graham that just puts all this out into the ether. I don't blame Iran. Why would they feel comfortable trying to have some type of negotiation with the United States? This is where we're at now, ladies and gentlemen. Lindsey Graham is getting a lot of crap for this comment that he made here. Check this out.
To those who believe you should confront evil, you're right. To those who believe it doesn't exist, you're wrong. To those who want to appease, it never works. We got a chance here to stop this regime. History would judge us poorly if we let the Ayatollah off the hook. How many times could we have stopped Hitler? A bunch. Somebody probably asked in 1935, what would Germany look like if you killed Hitler? I wish somebody had tried successfully.
So you're speaking about killing the
Ayatollah? The Ayatollah represents evil incarnate to me.
No, that actually would be us. So imagine comparing Iran to Hitler. This is where we're at now. I used to live in South Carolina. I graduated from the University of South Carolina, and I never understood why people voted for Lindsey Graham. I never got it. And I don't know. It didn't make sense to me. He's a warmonger. As long as I can remember, he has always been this way. And saying this type of statement from Lindsey Graham during a time where the president says, okay, we're trying to have these negotiation talks with Iran, this doesn't help the situation when you have people like Lindsey Graham making these comments. And he has been in Israel quite a bit. He goes on to talk about this here. Again, a lot of people are slamming him for this, where he talks about just how much he's been in Israel, but also how the future of the wars is around Israel. Listen.
Tapering off U.S. military aid.
Yeah, we talked about that.
You've spoken about a quicker timetable. How quickly do you?
Well, I think what his plan is to replace the money of $3-point-something billion with an investment in new technology, rather than just writing you a check help the IDF. He wants to create a partnership outside of the aid number. I like that idea. The wars of the future are being planned here in Israel, because if you're not one step ahead of the enemy, you suffer. The most clever, creative military forces on the planet are here in Israel, because they have to be to survive. So what we're looking at is that Israel is advancing down the road of new weaponry far beyond us, and it would be nice to have a process where we could be partners.
So here is Lindsey Graham telling you the future of war is in Israel. The future of the foreign policy is in Israel. He spends more time there, it seems like lately, than he does in his home state of South Carolina. So this is where we're at now, ladies and gentlemen. This guy serves Israel more than he serves the United States, and he doesn't serve the American people. He's just serving corporations in the military industrial complex. He's a complete and utter tool. And that's a problem, because right now, this is what I was telling people about, that Iran was practicing drills. And listen, I'm gonna tell you, Iran is not playing around. People have to understand the U.S. also depends on oil from other countries. This is why I said I believe part of that, capture of Maduro in Venezuela was so that the U.S. can steal the oil, so that they don't have to depend on the oil that is near Iran. And then they could say, okay, well, we're getting the oil from Venezuela, so Israel, you go in and you do what you need to do. So these negotiations that are supposed to happen, Iran isn't stupid. They know there's no real negotiation with the United States where they get to keep their facilities intact, where they get to make sure that there is no overthrow of their government, which again, whether you agree with the Iran regime or not is beside the point. It is not on us or any other country to decide to go in and topple a regime and to take over a country and install a Western puppet. We've been doing this for years, and all those countries are ruined after the fact. So this is what people need to be paying attention to.
In national headlines, nuclear negotiations between the U.S. and Iran are set to continue in Geneva Tuesday. Diplomats from each country say they're not sure if a deal on Iran's nuclear program and economic sanctions can be reached, but for now, they're willing to try. National correspondent Atra El-Nashar has a preview of the talks as each side puts their military on standby.
The United States and Iran attempting to keep diplomacy alive, with a second round of nuclear talks to be mediated by Oman Tuesday. But if you just look at their recent military moves, it would appear they're preparing for war. Iran State TV releasing this video of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard running drills Monday in the Strait of Hormuz, a waterway essential to oil trade. Within hours,
So I want to show you this waterway, and I'll bring it back in. So again, this is the Strait of Hormuz. And yes, there is oil trade that happens there. So they are practicing there. Guess what that means? If they're practicing drills there, obviously the U.S. tankers or any other tankers are not going to be feeling comfortable going into that area if they're running drills. Like, oh no, they're running drills, we might get hit. Iran knows that I don't think there's any way that they come out benefiting from any type of negotiation. And as you saw previously, look who Donald Trump sent there: Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, the same people behind this whole Gaza renovation project. They are there on behalf of the U.S. and Israel. They're not there to say, well, let's figure out something that works for you. They are there to say, this is what you do, or we take over, or we're going to war. Do this, or we are going to war. That's essentially what is happening. It's insane.
Essential to oil trade. Within hours, U.S. Central Command posting these images of squadron drills on the deck of the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier stationed in the Middle East, which will be joined by the USS Gerald Ford aircraft carrier group, the military's largest.
In case we don't make a deal, we'll need it.
Iran's foreign minister writing Monday morning, I am in Geneva with real ideas to achieve a fair and equitable deal. What is not on the table? Submission before threats. Each side has a fundamental goal. Iran wants economic sanctions lifted, and the U.S. wants to prevent Iran from ever developing a nuclear weapon.
And it's more than that. Excuse me, it's more than that. Just a couple weeks ago, Donald Trump and his administration said that it was because of the protests that were happening in Iran and they wanted to go save the protesters. Then it was revealed, and Israel has a big mouth. It was revealed that, oh, they have Mossad agents that are there that infiltrated the protests. Of course, that's how these things go. So then now they got to pivot back to, oh, we might go to war with Iran because they got nuclear weapons. They'll come up with any reason. And unfortunately, a lot of people will just believe it. They'll just fall for it and say, oh my God, Iran is this evil, terrible country.
A key part of that is blocking Iran from enriching uranium, which they've already done nearly to a weapons grade level.
Do you accept anything less than zero nuclear enrichment?
We don't want any enrichment.
As far as we are concerned, zero enrichment is not on the table.
Another point of friction, Iran's ballistic missile program. The U.S. wants it to be reined in. Iran says it's not up for discussion. According to a new report by CBS, President Trump told Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in December that he would support Israeli strikes on Iran's missile program if a U.S.-Iran deal cannot be reached.
And that's what it's really going to come down to. That's what it's really about. Benjamin Netanyahu knows this. They've already given the go-ahead. I would say even if they did reach a deal, they would still come up with the reason to attack them because Israel they don't want them there. They see them as a problem. They see them as a threat because Iran backed the resistance. So I want to show you something that the Iranian general said. This is not good. Ryan, thank you for this one. Just in, Iranian general says America is finished. This is what I'm telling you guys. Like, Iran is powerful. You do not want to mess with them. So he said, even if the U.S. deploys all of its 12 aircraft carriers, it won't be able to do a damn thing. America has certainly been defeated and is incapable of any aggression. Therefore, it should focus on its own domestic affairs. It should complete the deployment of the National Guard in its own states. America is already drowning in frustration and global humiliation. The U.S. president is currently mirrored in the Epstein corruption scandal. I'm telling you guys, we are an embarrassment right now. Everybody knows the Epstein thing is global. Everybody knows about it. America's relations with its closest allies like Canada and Europe have deteriorated to a level that is on the brink of war. The United States is finished, he said. We are a laughing stock to the world. And people have to understand, like, fighting Iran is not like fighting, some tiny little country or whatever. Like, Iran has weapons that are very powerful, as we saw before with that war that happened between Iran and Israel that lasted for a couple of days. As you notice, some of those weapons were able to make their way through the Iron Dome. So that also shows you the Iron Dome is not foolproof, not with the weapons that they have. Someone shared this as well, so you guys can see the activity that's happening. 1/3 of the U.S. Navy fleet deployed for Iran. This is from U.S. CENTCOM, EUROCOM, INDOPACOM, and air and naval assets. So you can see the movement here. This is crazy, guys. Like this is this is crazy. I think someone asked a question about, let me see if that question is still there. Maybe it's not there anymore. Someone was asking how many naval went to Iraq. But it says here, after the Gerald R. Ford carrier strike group transits the Atlantic, the U.S. will have 2 aircraft carriers and 15 destroyers, plus a few subs to work with across combatant commands. Approximately 33% deployed U.S. Navy fleet. I mean, you're essentially, if war kicks off, they're essentially sending these soldiers to their death. Like I said, there's some countries you do not want to mess with. You can see it also here. The world's largest nuclear aircraft carrier heads to the Middle East amid Iran tensions. So yeah, of course, that's obviously sending a very strong sign. That's the Gerald R. Ford. The U.S. Navy's top officer previously cautioned that extending the deployment of the aircraft carrier USS Gerald R. Ford could strain sailors and complicate maintenance schedules, comments that have gained renewed attention after the carrier was ordered to the Middle East amid rising tensions with Iran. So they're even calling out here that this is also going to strain sailors and complicate maintenance schedules. I mean, they don't care. They're willing to, again, like I said, sacrifice people in order to try to stop Iran. President Trump recently directed the Ford Carrier Strike Group to shift from the Caribbean to the U.S. Central Command Area of Operations, where it is expected to join the USS Abraham Lincoln to strengthen the U.S. military presence. So let's just all remember, ladies and gents, who is the aggressor here? Kamani said this: the Americans constantly say that they've sent a warship toward Iran. Of course, a warship is a dangerous piece of military hardware. However, more dangerous than that warship is the weapon that can send that warship to the bottom of the sea. Guys, this is not a game. This is not a game. And what makes it also interesting is that they tried to tell us, right? Like when you listen to Mersheimer, Jeffrey Sachs, I just want to show you guys what some of the scholars have been saying over the years about the U.S. going to war with Iran.
Neither Iran or the United States want to fight each other. It's the Israelis who have been trying to pull the Iranians and the Americans into a fight.
Netanyahu's greatest dream in life is a war between the United States and Iran.
Netanyahu will drag him into the abyss. He wants this war in the Middle East come hell or high water, and it's not in their interest.
What war?
The war with Iran.
We don't want to go to war against Iran. I don't think we should be fighting wars on behalf of Israel.
Make it clear to Netanyahu that he should not be dragging America into war with Iran.
You go fight Iran. We are American people. It's not our problem.
If they start talking to you about fighting a war with Iran, you treat them like an enemy that they are.
We should not go to war in Iran on behalf of Israel.
Against the war with Iran. It's not in America's interest, and many Americans will die, and billions will be spent on a war we don't need to fight.
Everybody wants peace, except Israel.
So notice something about this video, that you saw people from different political spectrums. There's people all across the political spectrum, people who are right, people who are, left wing, people who are kind of in the center. This is not a popular decision. And polling shows that the majority of Americans do not want the U.S. to go to war with Iran. But the politicians oftentimes don't listen to what we want. And that's a big part of the problem. Now, Donald Trump has already put the call out, and pay attention to what happens. He already is putting the call out that he believes Iran will kill him. I'm going to translate that for you. If that were to be the case, I think you know who you really need to look at, because Iran is not trying to go after Donald Trump. Iran does not want war. We are the aggressors, the United States government and Israel. But he is already putting it out there. He already setting the stage for people to fall for this nonsense. So listen to what he just said.
It's Iran and their proxies who have threatened to retaliate against you and your team by killing you guys for taking out Soleimani.
Well, they haven't done that, and that would be a terrible thing for them to do, not because of me. If they did that, they would be obliterated. That'd be the end. I've left instructions. If they do it, they get obliterated. There won't be anything left. And they shouldn't be able to do it. And Biden should have said that, but he never did. I don't know why, lack of intelligence, perhaps. But he never said it. if that happens to a leader or close to a leader, frankly, if you had other people involved also, you would call for total obliteration of a state that did it. That would include Iran.
You see what's happening now? You see the stage that they're already trying to set? So this is, not good. Not good at all. I know most of you, you're watching this show, you're probably anti-war. We cannot have this happen. We can't have American soldiers die. We can't have Iranians die. We can't have the U.S. government and the military has gone all over the world implementing death and destruction. And that needs to stop. I really think the best way of doing this, like I said, all those people you saw in that video, everybody needs to come together across political ideologies for an anti-war coalition. And I'm telling you guys, this is not something that you can just do with people on the right. This is not something that you can just do with people on the left or people in the center or people who are just like, is today Tuesday? I don't know. But you have to have a broad coalition and it needs to be full of a lot of people. Because this whole partisan bullshit, when it comes to nuclear war, what party you're a part of doesn't matter. Think about that. We really are our own worst enemy. Same with Israel. They are their own worst enemy. Iran is not coming for us or for Israel. That war that happened between Iran and Israel, that was a couple-day war last year. Remember, Israel attacked them first. So we know who the aggressors are. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. Eric, we can go to part 2. Dark Matter, I think he's talking about Lindsey Graham said he lives there now. Shout out to Krista Holtz for becoming a Sabby member. Let's give Krista a big whoop whoop in the house. Thank you, Deep Green. Going to Shama's campaign event in Brooklyn this Friday. Looking forward to supporting Shama. Awesome. That's somebody who is anti-war and is not in either one of these two parties. Shama Swan's running as an independent. Thank you, Blame April 23. Tip jar. Thank you. Sun Queen says, I'm telling you, Netanyahu be bringing that burn book to Trump with blackmail worse than what's in the Epstein files. I don't know. People probably got blackmail on Netanyahu too. Thank you, Measured Men. The judge pulled the plug on his ballroom. He should be headed back to court. Let's get that Rumble rant and let's keep it moving and grooving. All right. Thank you for the Rumble rant. Increased blood pressure. That's an interesting name. Sabby, one of your Whitney Webb episodes got a mention in the Epstein files. That's interesting. Email that to me. Can you email that to me? Thank you, Hemp Carr. Cynthia McKinney and William Pepper both have said Jesse Jackson was FBI since day one. Didn't he go on TV with a bloody sweater after Dr. King's death? Interesting. I knew Cynthia McKinney did. And thank you for this one. It almost seems like Jackson admitted he was intimidated and neutralized in this NPR link. I have to check that out. Thank you. Thank you for this one, Himkar. One of the documents that was given to me was a CIA document that had a stamp on it that said somewhere at the top, there must be a Negro who is clean, who can step into the vacuum of chaos once Dr. King is exposed or assassinated. Cynthia McKinney. It's interesting. Thank you, T-Bone. Fantastic show so far, Sabby. Thanks to you and Eric for all you do. Please consider having Miko Palid and Nick Cruz on. Nick was on here recently. Miko, I need to reach back out to. He can be difficult to get sometimes because I know he's really busy, but thank you so much for that. Let's keep it moving and grooving, shall we? Okay. If you haven't had a chance to do so, do me a solid and smash that like button. Thank you. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. Again, tonight's theme is my own worst enemy. Let's get into this Epstein story about Zorro Ranch because something is happening there, moving and grooving. So I told you that Jeffrey Epstein had multiple properties. There's the Manhattan, townhouse. Of course, there's Epstein Island. And then there was also Zorro Ranch, and there may be others. I don't know. But, oh yeah, and also in Florida, Palm Beach in Florida. But Zorro Ranch has been brought in the mainstream news right now because one of the things that was revealed in the Epstein files was that it is alleged that there were bodies that were buried there at Zorro Ranch. Now, we're going to get into all of this because they just announced, New Mexico legislation just announced that they seem to have received approval to search that property, but someone else owns it. So I want to show you something that Virginia Giuffre said when she was talking about the blackmail. Again, rest in peace, Virginia Giuffre. We all know, that she is no longer alive, but she does have a book that talks about this as well. Listen to what she said about the blackmail.
I was trafficked to a lot of types of different men. I was trafficked to other billionaires. I was trafficked to politicians, professors, even royalty. He used me as a form of blackmail. So, these people would owe him favors. I was so utterly mortified. I was like, this guy's watching me go to the toilet. He's watching everything that happens in the massage room. He's watching me in my bedroom. He's, everything's being recorded. And that's when I realized that's how he's getting away with blackmailing everybody. Biggest reason in my mind was because he wanted to always have something on someone just in case he needed it. Why it's important that the media and the government work hand in hand to try to uncover who was involved to the highest level of people in our government and even in international government.
So I wanted people to see that, just to remind you that, yeah, Jeffrey Epstein blackmailed a lot of people. And that's also why you're not hearing more people that knew Jeffrey Epstein actually speak out. It was also reported that the amount of Epstein files that we've seen so far has actually only been 2% of the files. So we got to continue to let people know that all of the files were not released. We didn't even get half of the files. Only 2% have been released. So the DOJ and Donald Trump and the rest of them are trying their hardest to protect other people in those files. Now, one of the things in the files about the Zorro Ranch, this is the thing I think people really need to see, and they're definitely trying to protect people here. So this was sent November 21st, 2019. Subject, confidential, Jeffrey Epstein. Edward, this is sensitive, so it will be the first and last email depending on your discretion. You can choose to take it or trash it, but this comes from a person that has been there and seen it all. As a former staff at the Zorro, the material below was taken from Jeffrey Epstein's home as my insurance in case of future litigation against Epstein. Sorry, no questions. What is damning about Jeffrey Epstein is yet to be written. Did you know somewhere in the hills outside the Zorro, 2 foreign girls were buried on the orders of Jeffrey and Madam G? Both died by strangulation during rough fetish sexual activity. So let's pause there for just a second, because someone else actually owns that property now, and the person that owns it is a political candidate. And what I have to say to people is this. Again, this is not new. They knew about this for a long time, that there were bodies, but all this information did not come about yesterday. This information is new. So now they know that there are bodies allegedly buried outside of Zorro Ranch. Apparently 2 foreign girls. And you see what they did. And some people wonder, well, how were they able to get them into the United States? So one of the ways that they go about doing this, they get past the visa, they bring them in on a private plane. Remember, Jeffrey Epstein had the Lolita Express, right? Lolita Express. So that's a private plane. So when people ask, how were they able to bring girls who lived in Romania and all these other countries into the United States? without having a visa. That's how they get them in. So it goes on to say here are the video footage of Jeffrey Epstein. And I'm just going to read this stuff here because, again, there were links and obviously that has been removed. Sexual activity with the minor, threesome, underage girl, sexual activity, underage girl, Matthew Mellon video, underage girl, sexual assault fantasy video, girl from Bay Area, unalive attempt confession to Madam G, who is Jelaine Maxwell, audio. Please arrange for 1 Bitcoin by 6 p.m. today, Thursday, 11/22/2019, to the BTC wallet address. That was in 2019. They killed people, but something is happening. I know you guys have been upset with everything that's happened coming out about these files, but it looks like with the Zorro Ranch situation, there is movement taking place. Shout out to Decentered News for this one. Breaking: the New Mexico House of Representatives have passed a resolution creating a special committee consisting of 2 House Republicans and 2 House Democrats, which will investigate Zorro Ranch and the related allegations of criminal activity. We can go to the images here. Like I said, even this circle here, I think that's like a crop circle or whatever. Even that to me looks like some type of ritual image there, which is another thing we talked about from the files. Says right here, be it resolved by the House of Representatives of the state of New Mexico that the Speaker appoint a special committee of the House of Representatives consisting of 2 members from the majority party and 2 members from the minority party, and designate a chair from among the appointed members, and that the committee investigate Zorro Ranch and the related allegations of criminal activity. So here is Representative Melanie Stansberry, and she is talking about this here. So something is happening with Zorro Ranch. Listen to this.
Hey everyone. Well, happy President's Day. I am coming to you from New Mexico with breaking news in the Epstein investigation. And that is that tonight, the New Mexico State Legislature passed legislation to convene a truth commission to investigate Epstein's crimes here in our state, beginning tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. in our state capitol. This bill, House Resolution 1, was led by State House Representative Andrea Romero of Santa Fe and State House Representative Mariana Anaya of Albuquerque, and will help to bring forward a full picture of what happened here in New Mexico with Epstein's crimes, to understand why the crimes that were reported to federal and state authorities were never fully investigated, and to ensure that we have safeguards in place to not only hold those individuals accountable who were complicit, but to ensure that this can never happen again in our state.
So they found a way to go around the FBI because Pam Bondi said, this is it for the Epstein files. You guys are not getting any more information. So like I said, only 2% of those files were actually released. They are covering up for a lot of people, a lot of mess there. And you know what? These people have to live with this when they leave this administration, because here's the thing. While they may be protected right now because they're part of the Trump administration, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and those adjacent, when this administration is done, they're up for grabs. They can be prosecuted. Pam Bondi can face prosecution. Kash Patel can face prosecution when this administration is over. And the reality is, like for Donald Trump, Donald Trump, he's old. And he said, oh, I'm gonna run for 3rd term. He can't run for a 3rd term, number one, legally, but also Donald Trump is old. He having some trouble, same type of trouble we saw with Joe Biden. So yeah, they can go after Donald Trump too if they want to. But the reality is, I don't even know if Donald Trump is going to make it for the rest of this presidency, because there were reports that said he already had a mild stroke. But Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and all the rest of them, they are up for grabs after this administration ends. or actually, even if they were to walk away or step down right now. So while they're running cover to protect Donald Trump, he's not going to protect them. He's not going to be able to protect them. You see what I'm saying? So let's go on a little bit more here.
So we want to say thank you to our state legislators for leading on this legislation, which is not only vital as a larger part of our investigation at the federal level through our congressional inquiries and the Epstein Files Transparency Act, but also because it is an important piece of understanding what happened in our state, including at Zorro Ranch.
This is why it's important, again, to know who your representatives are in the state, right? So again, when people say, well, the FBI said this is it, there's nothing we can do, a lot of times there are loopholes or there are workarounds. So they're doing a workaround. Now, when I get into who owns this property, this is something else that I think is going to give people pause.
I also want to say this was a completely bipartisan effort and passed the New Mexico legislature unanimously with 62 votes, ensuring that we are holding our leaders accountable and investigating these crimes is not a partisan issue. And as always, New Mexico is leading the way. Now, Jeffrey Epstein purchased Zorro Ranch in New Mexico in 1993. He purchased nearly 10,000 acres from former Governor Bruce King and also included a parcel adjacent to it that he leased from state lands. Over the years, beginning in the early 1990s, there were allegations that were reported not only to state and local officials, but the FBI of sexual assault happening on that property. And what we do not fully understand at this time is why those crimes were never fully investigated, who knew about them, who was complicit in them, and ultimately why nobody was ever held accountable.
I'm going to push back on this here. You do know why it wasn't investigated and they weren't held accountable, because they're rich people, and these same rich people buy the politicians. So you do know why. This is the thing I was saying, like with Democrats, like you got to push back and no, you do know why. We all know why they weren't held accountable.
That property was held by Jeffrey Epstein until his death in 2019 and was sold in 2023 to a limited liability company. Now, what is particularly interesting is over the last several days, there has been new breaking news that the Santa Fe New Mexican broke of who purchased that property just 2 years ago. In fact, it is now known that the individual who purchased Zorro Ranch in 2023 is a billionaire businessman from Texas who is also a former state senator named Donald Huffines. Now, what is interesting is that Mr. Huffines is also running for public office to be the state comptroller in Texas.
And Donald Huffines is endorsed by Donald Trump. He is a Trump candidate, and he now owns that property, the Zorro Ranch. We'll get into this a little bit more.
And used an LLC as a shell company to purchase that property through his wife as a trustee. It is also interesting to note that his son is currently serving as a high-level political appointee in the Trump administration in the White House at the current moment.
Of course, because same situation there with Leon Black and his son serving in the Trump administration.
Now, we don't know if these ties mean anything, but what we do know is that this property is a property in which multiple survivors have reported abuse, including several known survivors and several known FBI files, in addition to several crimes that have never been investigated.
And some who are no longer alive. Now, when we get into a little bit more of this guy, this is who Don Huffines is. Again, he's running for a comptroller in Texas. For those of you who live in Texas, he owns this property in New Mexico, but he resides in Texas. So he is going to be trying to be your politician. So pay attention, right? Well, these are valid questions for Don Huffines. Why would anyone buy Epstein's Zorro Ranch? Check this out.
Remember the guy running for Texas controller who bought Jeff's ranch? Yeah, it got worse. Shout out to Bethany Blankley at the Center Square for digging deeper. Now, this wasn't just Don Huffines buying a property. His wife, Mary Catherine, is listed as trustee, and his son, Colin, is the LLC manager. And that LLC created 1 month before the purchase, a brand new shell company in a state that allows anonymous ownership, built specifically to buy the property victims called the House on the Hill. And then they renamed it, changed Zorro Ranch to Rancho de San Rafael, changed the address from 49 Zorro Ranch Road to 49 Rancho San Rafael Road. New LLC, new name, new address. Almost like they didn't want anyone to know. And it worked until reporters at the Santa Fe New Mexican found it through public records. His campaign said the auction proceeds benefited his victims, but Epstein's own estate attorney said the money went to estate administration, including payment of creditors. One of those sounds noble. The other sounds like paying Epstein's bills. Somebody's lying. The property was valued at $21 million. The Huffines family got it knocked down to $13 million, a $7 million tax reduction using the property's notoriety as their argument. The man wants to be Texas's chief financial officer, and his big move is haggling down the tax bill on a sex trafficking ranch. And here's the part that should make everyone uncomfortable. The ranch has never been searched as part of a criminal investigation, not under Jeff and not under Huffines. Now remember, the FBI raided all of Jeff's other properties, but never touched Zorro Ranch. Right now, the New Mexico's land commissioner is calling for ground penetration radar and cadaver dogs on adjacent land. State.
Pause here because he speaks very quickly. Like I said, they never searched this property. So while everyone like Bill Gates is saying, I didn't go onto that island, guys, that is a distraction. Just because they did not go onto the island, and I question that with Bill Gates, but just because they didn't go onto the island doesn't mean they didn't go to any of these other properties. So you see how they're trying to turn your attention just to the island so you don't question the other properties that Jeffrey Epstein had?
Lawmakers are pushing for a truth commission, and Huffines won't answer questions about why he bought it, won't return reporters' calls. Now, I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I'm just asking questions. If you're a Christian conservative businessman who made a totally innocent real estate purchase, why are you hiding it behind a shell company, renaming the property, changing the address, and going silent while millions of files are dropping? What exactly is the upside of secrecy here? Even Greg Abbott's campaign consultant called it a sleazeball secret land deal and asked what kind of person thinks this is a good investment. Huffines is campaigning on accountability and conservative Christian values. He owns the house on the hill. He won't talk about it. Early voting starts next week for the primaries. Receipts, not speculation.
And what's really suspect about it is the fact that they changed the name of it, right? They changed the name, created that LLC. It's very suspicious, guys, but keep your eye on that guy. And then also, guess who else endorsed that candidate? TPUSA. Yes. And he shared it right here. Shout out to Diligent Denizen. TPUSA endorses owner of Epstein's Zorro Ranch. Well, if that isn't suspect, hella sus. He shared it here. Personally endorsed my campaign as a must-win race for Texas. He said Charlie Kirk endorsed it. Now TP Action is stepping up to help finish what he started. Check this out here. Just to show you. I think I have to mute it because of the... You see that? Republican Huffines, they endorsed him for comptroller, as if things could not become even more suspicious about Turning Point USA. I mean, I don't know what to tell you guys, but it's very strange to me. Very sus, I would say. Here's something else I wanted to show you about that guy. Don Huffines ignores direct requests for independent search of his Epstein Zorro Ranch. Huffines deflected, saying he would allow law enforcement to search his Zorro property, while at the same time admits law has never tried. Is that the Christian thing to do? Dun, dun, dun. And you can see it here. In 2023, 4 years after Epstein's death, San Rafael Ranch had been listed on the open market for years and was scheduled for public auction. So he's talking about how it came in. He said at the time of the sale, it was marketed that the proceeds would go to the victims. It has since been confirmed by the estates. I forget the part here, but the reality is they're saying, people are now saying that that money did not go to the victims. And Diligent Denizen here says, will you allow an independent professional search teams to search the property under supervision with any other assurances you might need? And you can see this here. That's what he's asking. Yeah. And Dawn doesn't respond there. Like I said, guys, it's really sus that they changed the name. It's just really weird to me. So we got to keep our eye on this, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, like it's some weird things going on. But as much as people keep talking about that island, do not take your eyes off Zorro Ranch or also the Manhattan townhouse that Jeffrey Epstein had as well, and the Palm Beach property. So the whole I wasn't on the island thing is just a distraction. Keep that in mind. All right. I think we're doing really well on time. Let's go ahead and get to the next story here, ladies and gents. Again, the theme tonight is my own worst enemy. My own worst enemy. Let's get to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. Thank you, Marco. Happy Black History Month, Sabby, from Marco Putalaka. Thank you. Thank you, Marco. Shout out to Kendra Curry for becoming a new member. Let's give Kendra a big whoop, whoop. Yeah. Thank you, Sparky. Since Israel owns the U.S. Congress, if President Trump doesn't attack Iran, Congress will likely declare war on Iran to overrule Trump. It's a good point. Thank you, Apri. Did you see the Israeli creator of the show Tehran was found dead in Athens? Curious if you have a take. I'm late today. Sorry if you already discussed. I did see it. I have not seen that show at all. So I don't know if she talked about Iran from a pro-Iran perspective or a pro-Israel perspective. But yeah, I do think it's very sus. It seems like Israel's trying to tie up some loose ends, as they would call it. Thank you. Jabram says, I believe that he's going to seize power before the midterms. Malignant, narcissistic. He'd rather burn it all. Thank you, darling. Erica's text brought you onto my radar, and now you're officially part of my new family with Zach, Barron, and Candace. Thank you, love. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Joey. Thank you for publishing this, Sabrina. You are welcome. Thank you, Sparky. Anytime someone says Israel is our only friend in the Middle East, I can't help but think before Israel, we had no enemies in the Middle East. U.S. missionary John Sheehan. Thank you, Ava. Huffines campaign advert signs all over Texas read "In woke DEI LOL." And thank you for the super sticker there, the King's Daughter. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's keep it moving and grooving. Let's get to Mr. Lebron because people have things to say about him. NBA player LeBron James, while he may be great on the basketball court, when it comes to issues off the court, he has a tendency to really step in it, as Hannah G had said, and he really did step in it on this one. LeBron James has kind of been known to take a position on things, usually when it's popular to do so. And the moment that he gets pressured from the establishment, he walks it back. Recently, LeBron James said a statement about Israel that has a lot of people coming after LeBron. And I'm going to show you what he said. And I'm going to show you how not to be like LeBron and how to, I don't know why that just did that. I'm going to show you how not to be like LeBron and other people that you can look up towards who get this issue correct. So what exactly did LeBron say? Let's go ahead and bring it in. Aye.
So what do you think about Danny Appian?
Well, I've been quoted on Danny already. And they asked me what I thought about this season. I said I believe he was an all-star. And I mean, he is an all-star. He's playing, exceptional, basketball.
He's talking about the basketball player that is from Israel. Just to let you guys know who he's talking about.
So that's that. And then, I mean, if I have fans over there, I've never been there. If I have fans over there, then I hope you've been following my career. I hope I inspire people over there to not only want to be great in sports, but I want to just be better in general in life. So hopefully someday I can make it over there. Like I said, I've never been over there, but I've heard nothing but great things, and I appreciate the question.
Thank you.
So let's go back to the beginning, and let me tell you when he should have just stopped talking. Let's listen to this again.
What do you think about Danny Aftia?
Well, I've been quoted on Danny already, and they asked me what I thought about this season. I said I believe he was an all-star, and I mean he is an all-star. He's playing exceptional basketball. So that's that. And then I mean if I have fans over there, I've never been there. If I have
Stop. He should have just ended right there. All he had to say is, I think that Danny is playing exceptional basketball, and that's it. That's all he had to say. He goes on to say that, well, I've never been over there. And
then I hope you've been following my career. I hope I inspire people over there to not only want to be great in sports, but I want to just be better in general in life. So hopefully someday I can make it over there. Like I said, I've never been over there, but I've heard nothing but great things, and I appreciate the question.
So then he goes on to say that he's never been over there to Israel, but he hopes that he can make it over there. And he says that he's heard nothing but great things. So you mean to tell me in the past 2.5 years, you've heard nothing but great things about Israel? Are we supposed to believe that LeBron James didn't hear anything about a genocide that is happening? Nothing but great things, according to him. And this is where I push back on LeBron, because he is known for being a cuck. There have been times in the past where he stood up for issues, rightfully so. The moment that the establishment, the moment that the kingmakers, because he may call himself King James, but he has kingmakers that he reports to. The moment that the kingmakers come after him for it or say, you shouldn't have said this, blah, 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 he walks it back. And to say after everything that has happened, genocide, children being starved and killed right in front of your face, LeBron James is on social media just like you are. And for him to sit here and say he's heard nothing but good things, it is absolutely disgusting. Some people went a little light on LeBron. I am not going to go light on him because he fucking knows better. They didn't even ask him about Israel. He added that part in right here at the All-Star game. They were asking him about Israeli player. They didn't ask him if he was going to go to Israel. He added that information. That's how you know he is captured. That's how you know he is a part of the same establishment, the same LeBron James who stands up here. And it's funny because he's reading this book, Malcolm X autobiography. He ain't learned anything from that book. Did he really listen to what Malcolm X said? Especially when it came to Israel, did he listen to any of that? This is what I was trying to tell you guys, how not to get misled by people like this. This is why I say don't make celebrities your heroes. The hero is you looking in the mirror. The hero is your mom, your dad, your friends in your neighborhood. Those are the heroes, not LeBron, not these celebrities. Sitting up there cucking for the establishment. Now I'm going to use my brain here a little bit. Something tells me that LeBron, knowing that he's also interested in business, he's probably coming up on retirement pretty soon. LeBron probably at some point wants to own his own NBA team. And like I said, he is kissing up to the king makers because he's looking out for himself. I've heard nothing but only good things. It doesn't take people really attacking LeBron James to bring this out. He is his own worst enemy. He puts his own foot in mouth. Foot, mouth. That's what he does. Now I want to show you the difference. Here's Dwight Howard. Listen to what Dwight Howard said about Israel, Gaza. Listen to this.
I tweeted free Palestine, and I dang near got kicked out the league for it. And I'm like trying to figure out why. So I tweet free Palestine. Less than 10 minutes after I tweet that, I get a call from the commissioner of the NBA.
Stop it.
Agents, people working with my foundation at the time, Texas, you got to erase this tweet. You got to take this down. You're going to get it. I'm like, what did I do that was so bad?
Can somebody explain to me?
Yeah, can somebody explain, you know?
So that was Dwight Howard telling people about the way that he was treated when he tweeted, you know, free Palestine. Again, that's free speech. But Dwight Howard is saying what LeBron James won't say. LeBron James, number one, isn't going to say free Palestine, apparently, and also isn't going to tell you what's going on behind the scenes here, like Dwight did. There are no heroes in this type of space. A lot of times people end up bucking to the system, but, you know, Dwight Howard, not like LeBron James. Spike Lee, also not like LeBron James. Spike Lee is getting a lot of flack because he showed up to the NBA All-Star game wearing the Palestine shirt. He had the Palestine strap on his, I think this is a man bag or something. He has the Palestine flag right here on his sweater. And a number of people are coming after Spike Lee because he decided to support Palestine at the NBA All-Star game. This is where LeBron James won't go. Even though LeBron knows, you can't sit up here and say that you know oppression and occupation is wrong, but then you're going to sit up here and say, I've heard nothing but good things about Israel. So it's not that LeBron James doesn't know. He does know. He bows to the establishment. And then you see with Spike Lee here, you see the difference. Now, Spike Lee isn't a basketball player, but he's a filmmaker. He's a director. He's worked in Hollywood with some of these Zionists. But do you see him hiding? No. Spike Lee, not like LeBron James. You can see it here. Johnny said, when you're tough enough to bomb children from the air, but not quite tough enough to handle a grown man wearing clothes. Batar Worldwide, here they are calling Spike Lee a scumbag. You see how this works? Just because, let me pull this up here. Just because he represented Palestine. So now it's, like I said, and it's not even just about representing Palestine. It's about not bending the knee to Israel and to the supremacy. So now all of a sudden, according to Batar Worldwide, he's a scumbag. And they'll do it to anyone. Anyone. They are more outraged that Spike Lee is wearing a keffiyeh sweater with a Palestine symbol than they are at these kids that have been killed and starved. They'll do it to anyone. In a world of LeBron James, there's also Jaylen Brown. Listen to what Jaylen Brown said.
Following up on that, you've been so big with using your voice. What would you say to this generation that's trying to find theirs?
Continue to speak out. There's a lot of stuff going on in our world beyond basketball, beyond sports. Don't be afraid. Don't be discouraged. I think we're kind of used to playing the game or following, like, there's a fear associated to like kind of playing a game or I don't know how to describe it, but don't be afraid to create a new path and be who you're destined to be.
Jaylen could have got a little bit more detailed there, but basically what Jaylen was saying, and he's gotten flack too because he wore a Free Palestine bracelet, And Jaylen Brown was basically saying there that there are other important things that are happening in the world. I also believe that this is part of the reason why Jaylen Brown was not selected to be a part of the Olympics basketball team. Because I live here in Massachusetts, and I'm here to tell you, there's no way that team that was chosen for the basketball Olympics, there's no way they picked Jason Tatum, but they didn't pick Jaylen Brown. Instead of Jaylen Brown, they gave it to Holiday. Holiday didn't have anywhere near the stats that Jaylen Brown had. So that was a slap in the face because he wore that Free Palestine bracelet. This is how the league works. So there are other people. Let's go to the next part, Eric. There are other people in the NBA that are not cucking the way that LeBron James is. And like I said, it's not even just this issue. It's every fucking issue. Everything that he speaks out in support of, as soon as he gets some type of criticism from the kingmakers, he walks it back. Kyrie Irving, not like LeBron James.
Just exist.
And to follow up on the promotion of the movie and the book.
Can you please stop calling it a promotion? What am I promoting?
Put it out on your platform.
But I'm promoting it? Do you see me doing, do you see me in front of
putting it out there,
the
people
title?
are going to say that you are
Yeah, I put it out there just like you put things out there, right?
Yeah, but it's not
you put things out there for a living, right?
Right, but my stuff
Great.
is not
So let's move on.
filled
Let's
with
move on.
anti-Semitic
Let's
stuff.
move on. Don't dehumanize me up here.
I'm not doing that.
Another
You're
human
free to
being.
post
I can post whatever I want. So say that and shut it down and move on to the next question.
But Kyrie, you have to understand that by
I don't have to understand anything from you.
It's not me.
Nothing.
By
It's no
posting
people that
what
you're
you
making up,
did.
bro. Move on.
But by posting
Move
what
on.
you
Next
did,
question.
Anybody
Do
is
you guys have
gonna
any more
look at it,
questions for
and
me?
they're going to say,
You guys have any more
does he have
questions? Because this is going to be a clip.
anti-Semitic
This is going to be a clip that he's going to marvel at. Is this any more questions?
but you're not answering the question.
Oh, this is another answering your question. Oh my God, let's make another Instagram clip so we could be famous again. Next question.
Kyrie back.
Yeah, Kyrie knows what it's really all about. Right? So Kyrie was not going to let them, bully him in this way. Kyrie also at the NBA All-Star game is wearing the press t-shirt that the journalist wore in Gaza. Watch this. I believe this is Brandy that he's hugging here, but watch this. And everyone online was noticing it. See the press t-shirt? That's to honor the journalists that were killed in Gaza. So no, he doesn't bend the knee. He doesn't sit up there and try to hide like who he is. That's the difference. Yes, they came after Kyrie. Yes, they tried to smear him. Yes, they did. But unlike LeBron, he doesn't bend the knee. And this is what I'm talking about. So when people say, don't come after LeBron, you guys are being too, hard on him. LeBron is his own worst enemy. Sometimes people don't know when to shut up. He could have just shut up after he said, yeah, I think he's a great basketball player. So he could have just shut up right then and there. Here's Kyrie again, refusing to do an interview with ESPN. I thought this was funny.
I got to get you walking around.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
ESPN is going to walk with you and ask you the questions. So you got to sit down.
Okay.
No?
I don't really care for ESPN. That's fine. That's fine. We can do it. That's fine. That's fine.
He said he doesn't really care for ESPN. Again, not willing to bend the knee here and sit down and talk to ESPN. I mean, at some point, you have to be principled, right? Here's another one that people may not know. Kyrie gave $25,000 to our Connecting Gaza project to directly support families in Gaza in desperate need of food, shelter, medical care, and more. You can help too, make a tangible, concrete difference in people's lives today. So Kyrie donated $25,000 to feed people in Gaza. And again, you see it here. He's wearing the press shirt honoring Gaza journalists. I want to show you something that Kyrie said about the world and the people in it.
This whole celebrity idea is eroding. The whole fame idea is eroding. That shit was sold to us, y'all. You got people out here that are human, that are acting every day of their life. They're not even real. They just on NPC shit. Every day they acting. They don't even know. The world is a stage, dog. And it's a lot of terrible actors. It's a lot of terrible actors out here. The world is a stage. There's a lot of terrible fucking actors, dog. You know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna say it. I'm just gonna say it, dog. I'm just gonna say it. I tried to tell Spice beforehand I said it, but the whole idea of celebrity, bro, if you're not a real person and you can't stand on your morals and principles out here, move out the way. You can't stand on any principles and morals out here as a person that's trying to see this world become better, move out the way for the time being. I'm not paying attention to all the beefs going on or, who.
Basically, Kyrie letting you know that the world is a stage. And there's a lot of actors out there. There's a lot of people putting on airs, a lot of people being phony, being fake. And so, it's interesting. I go back to the basketball strike, which LeBron was a part of. Obama came in and shut that down. People got nicknames for all of them now. They're being called Stephen Yahoo, Lakud James, and the KDF. All three of them bending the knee to Israel. We cannot forget that Steph Curry was just outed having investments in Israel. That's what they're calling them. This is funny as hell. People are also calling them the genocide generation. There's LeBron there. He's heard great things. Anthony Davis says, gotta admit, Kevin Durant is making money off the genocide in Gaza. Wasn't something I expected to learn today. People are talking about Kevin Durant. And of course, Steph Curry's ties to Israeli military intelligence. Sellouts. Just all complete sellouts, ladies and gents. So at the end of the day, the hero is you and other people in your community, not LeBron, not any of these other people. But if you're looking towards people in the NBA, there are other people that are doing the right thing and are standing on business when it comes to these types of issues, not like LeBron. He's his own worst enemy. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. Thank you. Skylar said, I heard the reporter that asked LeBron that question is also Israeli, not confirmed. I wonder if Israel has dirt on him. Remember a few years ago when he got caught in some woman's IG DMs? I don't know. Thank you. This may be of interest. If the age of Aquarius sounds like BS to you, maybe you've been misled by people who love money and power more than anything. Find out what Alice Bailey or Benjamin Krim said about it. Hashtag age of Aquarius. Thank you, Arlene, Kyrie, Solidarity. And thank you, Moafro says, conscious heroes rise. God protect your warriors. Thank you, Moafro. Thank you. Let's move on. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I missed that one. Let's get that comment there from Rumble. Thank you. Thank you, Hempcar. Ironic they call Iran Nazis. CIA, Mossad, and MI6 trained Savak Nazi torture techniques. See Wikipedia for torture lists. Amnesty International once said that Shah was the worst human rights abuser on the planet. Thank you. And thank you for this tip on Rumble. I can't see who sent this, but oh, goo, thank you. Mark Lamont Hill said he was deeply heartbroken regarding LeBron. I would say stop hero worshiping. He was involved in Diddy parties and joked about it with Diddy on Zoom, sticking his tongue out. Yeah, you just can't. You just can't hero worship these people. It just is what it is, right? Okay, let's get to the next story here, ladies and gents. Right after Discord made that decision that they were going to implement those age restrictions, now we are starting to see that Trump's administration has contacted social media platforms to basically target people that criticize ICE. This is an invasion of privacy. Regardless of how you feel about ICE, nobody should have their privacy taken away. Let's go ahead and bring this up here. Homeland Security wants social media sites to expose anti-ICE accounts. Ladies and gentlemen, see what I was saying about verifying the age and having your ID? That's why they wanted people to do that, so they know who you are. Let's get into this part here. DHS is expanding its efforts to identify Americans who oppose immigration and customs enforcement by sending tech companies legal requests for the names, email addresses, telephone numbers, and other identifying data behind social media accounts that track or criticize the agency. So this, again, is an invasion of privacy. You have a right to keep your phone number private, your email address private if you want to. They are essentially implementing, this is just more fascism, them coming after your personal information because you criticize ICE. They're not even just saying, okay, we're going after the people who may have been protesting. Now they're taking it a step further. Now it's people who even criticized ICE. This is where they're going now. Crazy when you think about it. It goes on to say here, in recent months, Google, Reddit, Discord, and Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram, have received hundreds of administrative subpoenas from the DHS, according to 4 government officials and tech employees privy to the requests. They spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to speak publicly. So they actually issued a subpoena. Google, Meta, and Reddit complied with some of the requests, the government officials said. In the subpoenas, the department asked the companies for identifying details of accounts that do not have a real person name attached and that have criticized ICE or pointed to the locations of ICE agents. The New York Times saw 2 subpoenas that were sent to Meta over the last 6 months. So that right there is very, very concerning. Because now it's getting to the point where, like I said, this is a free speech issue. You can't criticize them. They went from the people who are out in the streets, you're a problem, we're coming after you. Now it's the people who have criticized ICE, we're coming after you. They're looking for your address. They're looking for your phone number. Like, none of this is okay. Regardless how you feel about ICE, you have a right to privacy, and that is an invasion of your privacy. This is what they are doing now. And so we'll go into others here. The tech company, which can choose whether or not to provide the information, have said they review government requests before complying. Some of the companies notified the people whom the government had requested data on and give them 10 to 14 days to fight the subpoena in court. So I don't know what to tell you guys other than this is getting really serious. And I want to show you what just happened with Code Pink, because they're coming after these other groups as well. Yesterday, the House Ways and Means Committee held a bogus hearing to attack Code Pink and other movement groups and media organizations for alleged foreign influence. While Code Pink doesn't receive any money from foreign entities, Committee Chairman Jason Smith has taken $100,000 from lobby interest groups representing Israel. We refuse to be intimidated by this slander. We will not stop fighting for peace. So you see how now they're coming after Code Pink as well? Listen to this.
You talk about Code Pink, very irritating group to some people. But of course, they are protesting war, protesting aggressions, and they have a constitutional right to do that.
So we're going into the office of Jason Smith, who held a hearing yesterday in which he accused Code Pink and our friends like the People's Forum and Breakthrough News of taking money from the Chinese Communist Party. And I'm sick and tired of hearing that because you know what? One, we don't take any money from the Chinese Communist Party. And you know what? Jason Smith gets $100,000 from an entity representing the Israeli government, and that is AIPAC. So he's the one that should be investigated, as well as so many of these people in Congress for representing a foreign government, which, by the way, is a genocidal government. So let's go in and see if we can talk to someone. Isn't there a person that works on foreign policy? Formal? Yeah.
I'm not sure she's in at the moment.
So can maybe take a look and see? Thank you.
Yeah.
When we hear in an official setting, like a hearing, that we're being accused of that, and then they say, and these people, they take money from the Chinese Communist Party. And then he says, and then they use that money to disrupt hearings. How awful is that? You know what? We disrupt hearings because it's the people's house. And so many of these people in Congress are compromised. And thank goodness there's people like us willing to speak up. But, you know, when we're constantly being maligned, excuse me, sir, do you work here?
Sorry, no, just visiting someone.
So, you know, to have this guy slander us, it's libel to say we take money from the Chinese Communist Party when he is taking money from AIPAC. It's not only wrong, it's very dangerous for us as a group. And that's why we're here to say, you know, stop that. If we did something, give us proof. If we have taken money from a foreign government, show it. One other thing I want to say is that we pass an audit every single year. So if there were any foreign money in there, it would be disclosed on our tax forms, unlike the biggest agency of the United States, which is at the Pentagon, which can't pass an audit. So I will follow up with Mason Greenwald to tell him to tell the congressperson, stop slandering Code Pink, the People's Forum, Breakthrough News, and other entities that do not get any money from the Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah. So I just want to add, you guys, it's not just Code Pink, Breakthrough News, and the People's Forum. I think they're connected. They're coming after them too. So they're not just looking at Code Pink. They're not just looking at people who criticize ICE on these social media platforms. They're basically like, honestly, it's getting to the point where if you criticize Trump or the Trump administration, they're coming after people. Meanwhile, they won't go after any of these people in the Epstein files. And I'm going to tell you guys, many of the things that I saw in the files, I can't even show on here. That's how disgusting it is. But there are many documents in there that are so outrageous and so just disgusting that it makes you sick to your stomach. It really does. So do you see how they're waging a war on the 99% instead of the people who did all this stuff in the Epstein files? Here it is right now on DHS Twitter page here. Organizations like Code Pink and the People's Forum denigrate the U.S., whitewash the violence of Marxist regimes, and run cover for narco-terrorists like Maduro while enjoying an influx of cash from a donor network with connections to the Chinese Communist Party. Now, I don't know where they get their money from. But what I do know is that this is another distraction. They are trying to, it's almost like the more information that comes out in those Epstein files, the more information that comes out about Trump, it's almost like the harder they go after the working class, the more policies they try to push against the working class, as if, how dare you look into the Epstein class of people? That's what I've been noticing. And we got to push back on the censorship. And when you listen to what Netanyahu just said here, pay attention to what he says about this AI agreement that they just made with the United States.
Because Israel is a powerful engine. It's a juggernaut on innovation and technology that is changing the world. About 10 years ago, I said that Israel will be among the top 3 cyber powers in the world. I was wrong. Well, I was right, but it's number 2. Israel, tiny Israel, 10 million people, receives more foreign investments in cyber tech than any other country in the world except the United States. I'm talking about absolute numbers. That's what we did in 10 years. Guess what? We're going to do exactly the same thing in AI. We just signed a major agreement with the United States on AI cooperation. We're going to do the same thing in quantum. This is our advantage, and we pursue it with a vengeance. Israel is a very strong country coming out of the war. Coming out of the war, strong economically, strong militarily, strong technologically, and we intend to be a lot stronger. Now, why am I telling you this? Because I believe, oh, and by the way, the United States just issued a Security Council memorandum, and it described its vision of regional alliances and anchor countries, and it called Israel, the model ally. The model ally.
So I think what people are starting to see here is that, and I want to just bring this up here for a second. What people are starting to see is that prediction that we were talking about, where all the major tech would eventually end up in Israel, you're starting to see steps being made in that direction. Because they're already making these deals. Like, it's really sad. Like, I'm telling you guys, like, we got to get to a point where we have more alternative options that don't fail, like alternative options that can actually compete with these other competitors that are out there. And this is really important because right now, Donald Trump, I really do think Donald Trump is trying to just throw everything in the toilet. I want to show you the numbers right now. His approval is not looking good. I think that Trump is trying to just blow up as much things as he can because, he just don't give a shit now. I think he's just trying to blow everything up as much as he can and just saying, screw it.
Hey, some bad news in the polling for President Trump. His approval rating hitting new lows. CNN's Harry Enton is running the numbers on this one for us. Hello, Harry.
Hello, Kate.
Where does the president stand?
Happy Washington's birthday observed today. That's what it is in the state of New York. I'm a New Yorker through and through. Let's take a look at another president, though. President Donald John Trump. Look at this. I got 4 numbers across for you on this screen here. They are all second-term lows for the given pollster. What are we talking about? AP North, 26 points below water. NBC, 22 points below water. Yahoo YouGov, 20 points below water. Quinnipiac, 19 points below water. So we're ranging from negative 19 points all the way to negative 26 points. Kate, there's this question that folks keep asking, where is the floor for Donald Trump? And I'm not sure there is a floor, because if there is one, Donald Trump, at least in term number 2, has just fallen through it to another low level.
How does this compare with his first term, and how does this compare with Joe Biden?
Okay, so we look at these numbers right here. One of the things that Donald Trump had been arguing, his proponents have been arguing, oh, you know what, he's doing better than he was doing in term number 1. No longer is that the case. What are we talking about here? Okay, net approval rating at this point in the term. Look at this. 22 points below water on average when you average all the pollsters from the last slide. That is actually lower. That is lower than he was at this point in term number 1, when he was 17 points below water. So he's doing 5 points worse, and he's doing way worse than Joe Biden was doing at this point in his term number 1, when he was 13 points below water. So the bottom line is this: Donald Trump is setting new records for himself in term number 2, setting new records for himself compared to where he was at this point in term number 1, and he's doing worse than Joe Biden, which is, of course, the comparison that Donald Trump does not want to be, because we all know what happened to Joe Biden. His party lost the House in term number 1, that midterm elections, and of course, Joe Biden was not reelected to another term. At this.
Yeah. So as I told you, Republicans are right now on track to lose in the midterms. And again, I think that Donald Trump just does not give a shit. I really do. I think he's trying to blow up as much as possible and just say, just screw it all. I don't give a damn. I think that's what it is. Like, really. But it's not doing well. It's not just what I just told you about DHS and obviously the free speech issue. It's the Epstein files. It's the wars, like people who believe Donald Trump was not going to implement any new wars. It's that. It's the economy. It's people saying, hey, things aren't getting cheaper for me. What the hell is going on? It's a number of things. It's the Israel first agenda. So it's not just one thing that you can point to that I think has pissed a lot of people off when it comes to Donald Trump. But then again, at the end of the day, everything that you see happening, the free speech, the censorship, the attack on free speech, and the censorship, again, This administration is its own worst enemy at this point. Own worst enemy at this point. Nothing else that I can really add to it. It's not because he keeps bringing up Joe Biden. This is not because of Joe Biden anymore. This is the actions of this administration. So they are their own worst enemy. All right. Okay, guys, we got one more story for you. And then I know some people said they had issues with YouTube. I don't know what's going on with YouTube. It's fine on my end, but I guess for some people, depending on where you live, it might be down for some people. So just letting you guys know we do see that. That means to say, I guess we'll have to figure out about call-in, because if it's down, I know some people can't participate. We'll have to figure that out. Or maybe I'll do call-in on Thursday. But anyway, let's go ahead and get to the last story, ladies and gents. Eric, can we go to part 3? Thank you. Thank you so much for the super chat constants. Drop a beat for Kyrie. I'll drop a beat at the end of the stream. Can we do that? Okay. I'll do it at the end of the stream. The homepage. Oh, the homepage is down. Okay. I don't know what they did there. I don't know. That's the thing about YouTube being attached to Google, you know? But let's go ahead to the last story here, ladies and gents. Okay. Again, the theme is my own worst enemy. We got to get into this Candace Owens story here, which I believe I haven't seen her stream yesterday. I didn't see her stream today. So maybe she's off this week. I don't know. So I'm wondering if she's going to make a video about this, but we got to talk about this. So a producer for the Charlie Kirk show decided to tell Candace Owens just exactly what he thought of her, when he simply could have just answered the question that she asked. And he is out here doubling down, tripling down on calling her a DEI hire. Now we're going to get into all of it. Let's see what actually kicked things off. So Candace said, not to be awkward, but regarding your instruction that we should watch Charlie's old content to see how he felt. One of the early actions his wife took as the new CEO was to have all the Charlie Kirk show episodes removed from Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. This was done less than 6 weeks after this assassination. So that is Candace responding to someone named Megan Basham, where she said most of these people are shallow and harmless. A few are dangerous. Erica falls into a lot of category. She's repeating what this woman said. I guess she's talking about what Elizabeth Lane said. We talked about that the other day. And so I don't want to get into the whole Megan thing, but to say here, I didn't know about this, that episodes were removed from Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. I will say that is weird. It almost seems like they're trying to do some type of rebrand. It's kind of weird. And you would just delete those things and just remove them. I don't know. But that is what was said. And apparently that angered this guy here, who is Ryan Marty, who is a producer for the Charlie Kirk show. This pissed him off so much that he said this. Hey, fun fact, DEI queen, I'm the only one that exclusively runs the Charlie Kirk YouTube, and nothing was deleted after his death. Stop making up garbage accusations that you literally know nothing about. You've become worse than KJP, which is Corinne Jean-Pierre, and Ketanji Brown Jackson. So the first thing that I want to point out, we'll hover over him, so I'll show you, because just to see if he's who he says he is. Ryan Marty, that's him right there, says the Charlie Kirk show. And first thing I noticed, instead of just responding to this question by saying, I'm the only one that exclusively runs Charlie Kirk YouTube, yada, yada, he had to say DEI queen. Why did he have to say that? Why do you have to say that? And then on top of that, Candace doesn't work for anyone. She has her own show. She's independent now, right? So that would mean that he's talking about her being a DEI queen back when she did work for someone, which would have been when she was a part of Turning Point USA and when she was a part of the Daily Wire. So he had to throw that in. What I tell you when I say people show you who they really are in the end. It gets worse because you would think he would take it down, but he goes on. Right here. Because Candace responds here, you have got to appreciate the irony of a company that literally employed me for years, now referring to me as a DEI hire. What does that mean? Excuse me. What does me being Black have to do with anything happening right now? Ryan, why are you referencing my race at all? Is this Turning Point 2.0? So again here, referring to her as DEI. And she said, what does me being Black have to do with anything happening right now? Now, let me come forward for a second. Remember when the Daily Wire fired Candace Owens? Some of you, if you've been with me for quite some time, remember what I said back then? I said that it is only a matter of time before they start talking about her the same way they talked about Black Democrats. And here we are. Because here's the thing. During that time, before she was fired from Daily Wire, she was on their team. She worked with Turning Point USA. She worked with the Daily Wire. When they made those comments about Corinne Jean-Pierre or just other Black, female that were Democrats, it was usually Democrats. When they made those comments about Black Democrats, Candace, I guess, felt as though they weren't talking about her because actually they weren't at that time, but they weren't talking about her because she was on their team. The moment you are no longer on their team, they will treat you the same way they treated the Black Democrats. They will call you the same names. And then on top of that, this comment from Ryan, you know what else it tells you? It tells you that regardless if Candace felt if she was hired as a DEI hire or hired as a token or whatever, regardless of how she felt, he's letting you know how he saw her. He saw her being hired as a token. What does that say about the producer, the Charlie Kirk show, Turning Point USA? He's going to go on to say that he's not really a part of Turning Point USA. What the fuck ever. Most of these Turning Point USA people are running the show. Let's go on. We got more to say. People show you who they are. He says so here. I am happy to announce Candace Owens has officially been announced as the low IQ DEI queen of them all. Congratulations, real Candace O. I have the crown for you if you want it. And look at the crown. Look at the picture. It's supposed to be like one of the African crowns. You see this? So now she's not just DEI queen. Now she's also low IQ. Where he get that from? Donald Trump was the one throwing around low IQ this, low IQ that, and all that kind of stuff. So what I'm saying is, this is who they really are. And many of us have been saying it for years. And you don't have to be a Democrat to see it. I'm not a registered Democrat. I'm not a registered Republican. I'm registered no party affiliation. I voted third party. And I called it back then, and I'm calling it now. The same way that they flipped on Candace like this, they will do it to Brandon Tatum. They will do it to the Hodge twins. They will do it to any of them that leave the fucking team. That's how this works. As long as you are bending to their will, as long as you are pushing the message and the narrative that they want you to push, as long as you are playing the role that they want you to play, they'll leave you alone. But the moment you start to veer off course, they will use those same insults to you. It goes on worse. Because it doesn't even stop there. That's the crazy part. She goes on to say, he said this part here, no one said anything about your race. I just referred to the fact that your bad idea should not be accepted. Ketanji Brown Jackson was just the previous queen of bad ideas. Okay, so he called her a DEI hire. Race is a part of DEI. Now he's trying to play stupid. So she goes on to retweet, and she says, it is difficult to put into words the audacity of Turning Point USA and their lies and subsequent gaslighting. This right here is another fun example. He called me a DEI hire, akin to Ketanji Brown. He then tweeted out a photo of an African queen garment, dubbing me the queen of DEI. Now he says it had nothing to do with race, because surely he would have utilized an Afro queen garment to symbolize anyone with a bad idea. He comes back to say, I am not in any way affiliated with Turning Point USA. Can you try not to pull a Jussie Smollett and turn this into a race hoax and address the rebuttal I made to your uninformed claims? By the way, this person here, Jennifer, said, this is funny. How are you curating the Charlie Kirk show clips and episodes and not affiliated with TPUSA? He triples down. So I just want to add this part here. During this back and forth, not once did I see one person from Turning Point USA, via Erica, via, Andrew, any of them come in and say, Ryan, stop. Not once did I see any one of them come in and apologize and say, this is wrong, this is unprofessional. Not one of them. Now, of course, people will say, well, Candace has been coming after Erica and she's been looking into her. Everybody been coming after Erica and looking into Erica. It's not just Candace. A lot of people have been looking into Erica because Erica been lying. But that doesn't mean you hit below the belt here. He could have easily pushed back on her without bringing up this whole DEI hire thing. That was hitting below the belt. But here's the thing. Not one of them said anything. You know why? Because they agree with him. This is how they see her. This is how they always seen her. And she may not have seen herself that way, but they saw her that way. I have something else to tell you about that too. I'm going to tell you what has been happening behind the scenes in this space. Ryan goes on to say, it's crazy how conservatives are now defending DEI. I remember a time when we wanted to promote the best and brightest ideas grounded in truth and reality. Instead, a huge portion of a fractured coalition is now possessed by the same dark spirit that rules the leftists. So now all of a sudden, if you call him out on this, now he's trying to say you're basically a leftist. Candace Owens is still conservative last time I checked. Hitting below the belt. And I'm going to show you some more, but let me tell you something real quick. Let me tell you something about political YouTube. Some little things that go on behind the scenes. Before the Daily Wire reached out to Candace, before they decided to bring Candace on, I know other Black conservative women that were approached and they turned it down because they were not willing to move the way that Ben Shapiro wanted them to move. Now, it's their story to tell. If they choose to come on and tell it, they're welcome to come on here and tell it. But similar offers were made to other people and they turned it down because they saw Ben Shapiro for what he fucking was. The same way Candace made a show not too long ago when she said that Ben Shapiro hates Black people too. He hates da-da-da. They saw that back then. And they weren't willing to play that role. So they found Candace. That's how Candace gets that job. There's a lot of things that happen that people are just not aware of. Now, I think what some people are getting wrong about this is that they think it only happens in conservative YouTube media. That's not true. I'll tell you another story. In progressive YouTube media, which people don't like to talk about this, but we're going to talk about it. There have been a number of Black commentators that were bullied out of this space. 2 that I know personally. You probably will never know who they are because they are no longer here. One of them said that they were very disappointed that other left podcasters weren't willing to organize on the outside, weren't willing to promote these activities, weren't willing to come together. And they were disappointed because they saw everybody come together for Bernie Sanders before they became, into this space. They said that they realized that a lot of these people just wanted to make money and that they didn't really want to do any type of organizing. So they were disappointed. And then what came along with that was bullying. I watched people bullying them behind the scenes. They are no longer on YouTube. It sucks. It's sad because they had a unique lived experience that I feel like was beneficial and needed in this space. They were bullied out. I knew of another one who was not just great commentator, did a lot of research, did a lot of writing, also bullied out. So it's not just that you don't see a lot of Black people in conservative YouTube media. You don't see a lot of Black people in progressive YouTube media either. And this is something people on the left don't really want to touch. They don't really want to talk about. But many of us know some things. Nico House, Nico's still around. Nico warned me early on. The problem that you run into with YouTube media is that you have the option to be a part of a network, a group, or to do it solo. There's pros and cons to both. If you're a part of a network or a group, you do have other people there, like with you. You have other people that have your back. The con about that, though, is that the moment that you're not pushing the narrative they want, the moment you decide to stray away on said issue, they now consider you to be a liability. Ultimately, this is what happened with the Daily Wire and Candace Owens, because she wasn't willing to take the pro-Israel position after October 7th. So they saw that as a liability and said she got to go. That's the con about being a part of a network and working with a group. The pro about being on your own is that you don't have to deal with that. But when you are on your own, the reality is a lot of times it can be isolating. And a lot of times you end up fighting for yourself. I will tell you in the end, though, it's worth it. Because you don't have to answer to these other people. So YouTube media is feisty. These are the things that happen behind the scenes. You don't get to see these things happen. But the moment you start to move in a way that they feel is problematic for their brand, they want you out of there. And depending on who the they is, they will even go as far as to make sure that you don't succeed on your own. I'm sure Candace has talked about some of the things that the Daily Wire has done to her since she went solo, right? We talked about that before on the show. So I've seen it on both sides. And that is why you don't see too many people mess with me. That's why you don't see me on some of these shows. It's not that I wouldn't go on. They don't reach out because I don't fit their narrative. And that goes across political ideology. You don't fit their narrative. They don't really want, they will bring on a conservative that they can debate before they bring on someone like me. And if you pay close attention, you guys have probably seen this. That's in the progressive YouTube media space. Yes, they will bring on a conservative before they bring on someone like me. Now, the problem that you run into if you go at this on your own is that if nobody knows you, you're really starting from the bottom, like I did. The way that you are brought to other people is by collaborating across different shows. But what people will do, the gatekeepers in YouTube media, they will try their best to make sure that no one finds you and no one sees you. That's on both sides. Their brand comes first. And there was one person who decided not to do that early on, back when I had maybe 4,000, 5,000 subscribers. Brianna Joy Gray brought me onto the Hill Rising multiple times. At one point, I was going on to Rising once a week as a guest spot. I always shout her out for that because she didn't have to do that. She was Bernie Sanders' press secretary. She could have just continued writing. She could have just looked out for herself. She did not have to do that. And she continued to bring me on. And that's how other people found me. What I'm here to tell you is that there are people who are gatekeepers in YouTube media that will make it so that you never see or hear about these people. That's the game that is played. The issue that they ran into with Candace is that she was already well known. Everybody knew who she was. So when she left the Daily Wire, she's like, okay, I'll just do my own, YouTube show. The mistake that they also made is that assuming people would not follow her, assuming that most people were going to stick beside the Daily Wire and forget about her. That didn't happen. Ben Shapiro was bleeding subscribers left and right. Turning Point USA is struggling. I think they really underestimated her with this. But that's who they always been. So when you are willing to play their game, they love you. They will promote you. They will give you as much praise as possible. They'll give you speaking engagements. They will do as much as they can for you because you are a part of their goal. But when you start to disagree and you do so publicly, now it's all about the brand, and they will do whatever they can to try to destroy you. The whole token thing, it wasn't just them. Nick Fuentes also called her a token. Listen to this.
You are a diversity hire. You are a DEI hire. You pander. And she thinks she's some kind of boss bitch. Yeah, you're a bitch, but like you didn't get that way because you're a super smart boss. You got that way because you're super bitchy black token. Like, it is what it is. So I don't know that anyone's ever told her that, but that's the obvious and I'm kind of done with all the Uncle Toms. In a way, I'm done with all the Uncle Toms. I'm done with Jason Whitlock. I'm done with Candace Owens. I'm done with all the Uncle Tom token blacks. Like, you're not that smart. You're not even that conservative. You built your career on a grift that is now dead. You were hired when diversity quotas were a thing. You were hired when white guilt is a thing. I don't feel white guilt. I never have. DEI is over. So now you're done. You need to be fired. Like, you're done. You are a diverse.
This is the way they always were. And so will people say, well, why do that? Why would they just bring on like a Candace or a Brandon Tatum or a Hodge twins? Like, why would they? Because you are the person that they can use as a shield. You're the person that they can use as a shield so that when it is time to critique Black people or the Black community, they can point to you and say, we are not racist. We have her. Yes, Ben Shapiro can say these things. Yes, you know, the other Turning Point people, Andrew Kovach, yeah, they can say those things. But it works out better for you if you have a Black person that says it for you. That's what they use you for. Yeah, Nick Fuentes said that. So it's been said multiple times. And I show you this part. Not Woke Awake said, interesting. I don't recall anyone getting this triggered when Candace was dunking on Blacks. Candace responded to that. This was August 18th, 2024. This is back when Candace was talking about Zionists and stuff like that. This was 2024, and people were getting mad at her, talking about how they don't like the fact that she's calling out Israel and stuff like that, right? Now, Candace retweeted that, and let me show you what Candace said. Again, Not Woke Awake said, interesting. I don't recall anyone getting this triggered when Candace was dunking on Blacks. Candace said, no, that was always allowed and encouraged. August 18th, 2024. And see, that's the thing. Of course, that was allowed and encouraged. That was what they wanted her to do. That was the role they wanted her to have. But the moment she started to dunk on Israel and she started to call out the Israelis and the Zionists, that was a bridge too far for them. Now you got to go because you criticizing. Wait a minute now. Wait a minute. You're criticizing my people. So now you got to go. These are the types of games that people play with you. They use you up. They get what they want from you, and then they don't need you anymore. And it happens in all of YouTube media. I don't give a damn what political aisle you're on. It happens on all of it. That comment that you saw from Ryan right there, he said that out in the open. That was overt. On the progressive side of YouTube media, people make little comments too behind the scenes. They would never say it publicly, but I don't know, some of the things like Sam Cedar has a debate with Breonna Joy Gray about force the vote and then goes on to Twitter and says she was loud and angry. They do it in a more covert way. Shit like that. But the statement that came from Ryan, you know, they're exposing themselves at this point. Honestly, there's not that much more that Candace really need to do. Like, they're exposing themselves. The fact that he couldn't just respond and say, that's not true, I'm the producer of the show, and just leave it at that. The fact that he had to put that in there, that tells you everything you need to know. The fact that Andrew Kovach and none of these other people at TPUSA or part of the Charlie Kirk show came in to say, stop that or apologize or defend or anything like that, tells you everything you need to know. This is who they are. This is who they've been. And they weren't that way towards her because she was on their team. Now that she's not on their team, they're going to treat her just like they treated the Black Democrats. Because at the end of the day, whether you're conservative or Democrat, if you're Black, you're still Black. They are their own worst enemy. Terrence Howard said something I thought was pretty good for people to listen to, how people really need to look at things yourself.
Good morning, everyone. This is a message to every man and woman out there that's searching for clarity in this complicated world. Number one, let me see the world as it truly is, not only as I was told it must be. You see, we inherit tradition, stories, and timelines and explanations, but true maturity begins the moment we are willing to look for ourselves. Number two, let me follow evidence over assumption, observation over expectation. You see, our world is full of many voices telling us what to think. But our greatest strength that we could ever develop is our ability to examine things with our own eyes, our own logic, our own God-given courage. Number three, let me question every constant, every rule that was handed down, every truth that cannot stand up to scrutiny. This is not rebellion. This is responsibility. It is how science moves forward. It is how history is corrected. It is how we evolve as a species. Number four, let me choose clarity over comfort, precision over persuasion, understanding over tradition, even when that tradition is beloved. You see, this is the path of those who seek the truth, not to destroy anything, but to understand it honestly. Because there's no growth without questioning. There's no wisdom without evidence. There's no freedom without clarity. And finally, number five, may my mind remain open, my reasoning remain disciplined, and my pursuit of truth remain fearless, not for the sake of controversy, but for the sake of integrity. To every seeker out there that is potentially absorbing any of this, we don't have to inherit the world as it was given to us. We have the right and the responsibility to examine it for ourselves. You see, the truth does not fear being questioned. Only fragile ideas do.
Only fragile ideas do. Terrence Howard, sometimes he says some things that are kind of kooky, but I thought that really hit the spot there, because I do think that oftentimes we tend to, it's like we're afraid to question something that may upset the people around us or the people close to us. One thing about this show is that I just really don't give a damn. I say things that people agree with. I say things that people disagree with on this show. But I think that's the world that I live in. I don't live in a world where everybody agrees. I don't live in a community where everybody agrees. I don't think you do either, despite what we may tell ourselves, right? So I always say, question everything. And always pay attention to the way that people respond to questions, or the way that people respond to any type of, pushback or whatever. What I thought was really interesting, again, was the way that Ryan chose to respond to that question. I mean, honestly, he didn't have to say anything at all. This is another one of those examples where he could have just shut the fuck up. But notice how he chose to respond. That will tell you everything about how people operate and what they really see when they looking at you. Because that DEI part, he could have left that out. He did that on purpose. All right, ladies and gents, we are going to do call in. I guess YouTube homepage is working again. I don't know what's going on. But we're going to do call in just a couple minutes. Eric's going to come on. He's going to read the super chats, and then I'll be back and we'll do the call in. Yeah.
All right. We'll do that. So we got like 5,500 watching, so I guess you can't be doing too bad here. Yeah, so this is the part of our show when we're transitioning. When we're transitioning from the YouTube show to the Zoom call-in show. One reason we call it call-in is because it used to be on an app called Call-In, but then they got rid of the app, so now we do it on Zoom. But it all works out. But yeah, Sabrina is actually creating that Zoom room as while she's on her little break here, and then we'll be giving you the link to that, and you'll also be able to go to sabbysabs2.com to get to it, but we'll tell you about that in a couple of minutes. First, we got some chats queued up here, and the other thing I just wanted to mention, here we go, checks notes. Throughout the stories and whatnot, when there's confusion and things get muddled and whatnot, that's part of why I tend to say that it's why I always talk about having that clear set of demands, right? From the 11 demands, which you can see, more about at the old 11demands.org, which is the URL that's there. But one of the things that's powerful about the demands is that it can keep the thinking on track. It's that if you always come back to that, MCDS is the other big thing in that, which stands for money, corruption, and demand solutions. And if you use those tools to analyze things and look at things, it really keeps you on track and keeps you focused on connecting the dots and to the core issues here, where everything connects back to, I would submit, and what the 11 Demands Project gets into is it connects to government, because we have this deeply corrupt government. Why is it deeply corrupt? Because the billionaires have too much wealth and power. They're corrupting the government and just mucking it up, bending it to their interests. And as long as we have that kind of deeply corrupt government, we're going to see these things both domestically and in foreign policy. The good news is that if we can get on the path to decorrupting our government and making that a core central issue, then some real improvements and some good things are possible. So that's what that project is about. And the other thing I wanted to mention on it was that I think we do want to be careful about focusing too much on Israel. Like people will say that, well, Israel obviously owns our Congress, right? And is running our government. And, while I would agree that Israel certainly has an outsized amount of power and influence, the reason Israel has that and the Zionists, I should say even more precisely, is because Israel and Zionism are billionaire pet projects. If you don't have billionaires power and resources, then you don't have a Zionist Israel operating in this way. If you fix the Israel problem in terms of taking away their power to lobby and corrupt our government, if you fix that tomorrow, things would still be pretty screwed up. But if you fix the billionaires' ability to corrupt and influence our government and to bend it all to their interests and fix that wealth equality and make the government really work for the 99%, then you start fixing a lot of things, including the Zionist Israel problem. And the best way to get there is numbers, right? We have to get a big number of us on the same page. All right, one more on cough, and then let's get to some super chats here in the queue. But as always, check out the 11demands.org. Also, we'll be in the Zoom hangout. We can be talking about these things and the stories that came up. But let's get through our queue before we waste too much more time here. Thanks to and shout out to Jay and Jay New Orleans for gifting a Sabby membership. Appreciate that. Thanks to Alex for this super chat who says Candace is on vacation, returns on the 23rd. Thanks for that info. And shout out to David for the super chat who says the chickens are coming home. They have a tendency to do that. Thanks for this one. Where's the love? Who says Candace went on Capitol Hill stating FBAs needed to stop playing victims and that racism didn't exist. FOH Candace Karma is an MF. Yeah, it would be nice to see her recant some of those things, but I don't know if that's happened or is going to happen. And thanks for the super chat, Surin, who says, just wanted to say I love this content. God bless you, Sabby. Thank you. And shout out to Ivan for the super chat. He says, what are your thoughts on that Gallup will no longer track presidential approval ratings? That might be a good question to ask and talk about in the Zoom Hangout. We like to get conversations going in there, not just have a lot of monologuing. And thanks for the super chat, Mountain Star Studio. He says, a solution, minimize TSN, tribal supremacy, nepotism. All right. And thanks much for the super sticker, Sandra. Appreciate that. And thanks also, Mountain Star Studio, for this one. It says, a political narrative tracking social credit score. Right. Thanks for that. And a big shout out to Dark Matter Zombies for the very generous super chat here saying, thank you, Sabby. We are all Palestinians now. Free Palestine. We will all be free. And let me just shift over for a second here to grab some of these on Rumble. Here we go. Thanks for this Rumble rant from Goo81, who's a regular out there on the Rumble, who says, Sabby, I would watch Reason to Resist episode on LeBron. LBJ makes LeBron makes 1.3 billion and remarked, we must rethink the sport industry as a whole as a distraction, and that stadiums are nothing but corporate ads. And we got one more. Let me catch that out here on the Rumble. And thanks also for this one. Guru says, keep in mind that LeBron attitude toward the kid in France asking for an autograph, also crying and poor sportsmanship and losses. Also Space Jam 2 sucks. He's got it all there when he's calling out the LeBron.
Not the Space Jam. Okay, we're gonna head into
more super chats. I don't know if you want to read them. You want me to?
Oh, there's more. Okay, sorry.
There's a couple more. You want to catch?
Thank you, Roger. No matter how much no matter how much you throw your under the bus to get with them folks, understand there is no retirement plan in the sellout game. There it is. Thank you, Flower Bro. TYT, whether intentionally or not, have been Democrat bouncers to keep left-wing ideas out of the national conversation. They've moved in a different direction recently. Thank you, Roger. And she was more than willing to go along with Black Duncan. Thank you, Mountain Star. Candace is correct over the target and on point solution. Minimize TSN equals tribal supremacy, nepotism by transparent ranked voting, term limits, and more than two parties. Pyramid of Power by OG Derek B. But to end tribalism, you also got to get out of the tribalism of the two-party system too. That's the thing, because that's also tribalism. And that is something that really keeps us all separated, is the two-party system. When in reality, most of us, especially if you're watching this show, we're not a part of the billionaire class. We're not a part of we changed it to Epstein class now. Is it Epstein class? Jade, we're not a part of the
That
Epstein
works.
class. Yeah, there you go. We're not a part of the Epstein class. And that's who's screwing over everybody. Okay, we're going to head into call-in, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you not joining the call-in portion of the show, I will be live again Thursday evening. It seems like YouTube apparently is, I don't know what was going on with YouTube earlier, but seems like it's working right now.
It's good enough.
Yeah. So the link to call in is pinned at the very top of the live stream chat there, ladies and gents. And what I like to do is I open it on the show just to make sure people can get in. Hey. When you join, do me a solid and mute your mic. And if you want to speak, at the bottom of the screen, there's an option to raise your hand. Click on the raise your hand icon that lets me know to call on you. If you come into the show a little bit later, you can go to sabbysabs2.com to also get that link to join the Zoom call. We go
there
until
now.
Yeah, we have a hard stop at midnight East Coast time. Or if everyone has spoken before then we might end a little earlier. But just to let you guys know. So I think people are in the call-in room. Okay, so again, that link is pinned at the top of the chat. If you want to come chat with me and other people and talk about tonight's show topics and much
You can
more.
set me up as co-host.
See you there. Eric, I'll go ahead and make you a co-host.
All right, I'll see you's in there.
All right. Okay, guys, that is it for me tonight. Again, I'll be live again Thursday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, guys. Have a good night and keep up the fight.